got 5 seconds to tell me where you buried the loot.
Oh man, it's great. They got film reviews, recommendations, special guest games.
Where's the loot?
Hey, calm down. It's there on Spotify and Google Podcast. I mean, it's easy. The Movie Loot. Check it out.
Hey there, classmates. Tune in to Middle Class Film Class every Monday and Wednesday for weekly movie news, streaming picks, and one deep dive review.
The Batman trailer. There was a teaser, there was a trailer 1, trailer 2, final trailer. I don't know if it's the same one. How many trailers do we need exactly?
Leave an email or voicemail to join in the discussion.
Bullshit artist.
Yeah, buddy.
All
That's
right.
awesome.
You're going full Danzig.
That's right, I am. My trans
You
gear
have no power over me.
Hello again, friends. This is the Film Effect Podcast.
Good morning, Film Effect.
That's it. That's the end of the game right there. That's World War III.
Fucking hot recording right now.
I literally never wanted to punch a movie in its face more than I had last night.
Definitely worth your time. It's definitely worth revisiting.
15 minutes in, I'm like, Dorothy, we're not in Oakland anymore.
It's in 4K, buddy. Check it out.
So we're kind of like an afternoon, drive time type thing. Or like the type of podcast you listen to at work.
I don't want to scare anyone, but I'm going to give it to you straight about Jason. His body was never recovered from the lake after he drowned. And if you listen to the old-timers in town, they'll tell you he's still out there.
Camp Crystal Lake has jinxed. We've got a death curse.
Some folks claim they've even seen him. Right in this area.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. Usually Erin's with me. She's not here today. She took a powder on this topic. This week, we're discussing all of the Friday the 13th movies. I mean, all 12, the entire series. So buckle up, baby. Okay? Good times had by all. Each week in the podcast that wouldn't die, we discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the past and the present with a comedic twist, we hope. So, it's a mega podcast. So let me kick it to my guests. We have an all-star cast. One after another. Carlo, go for it.
Shh. Hey, this is Carlo from the Movie Loot, and I'm really excited to be here and just try to share the best loot of Friday the 13th trivia and tidbits to everybody here.
And Pete.
Hi, everybody. I'm Pete from Middle Class Film Class, and I am here as the dissenter. I am the person who probably likes the series the least and has subjected it to myself all in 2 days over the course of 2 days in December of 2022. So I'm very fresh with the perspective.
And Stu.
This is Stu from SWOproductions.com and the Steward Order podcast. And I don't know if you can see, my head is kind of in the way, but I have Jason right behind me up there.
Oh my God.
Love it.
Careful.
Dynamite. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each film one at a time. So here we go. Friday the 13th, the original 1980 classic, which for some reason takes place in 1979. I don't know what the process is. It makes maybe it makes sense to somebody.
Did they know what?
Here we go.
Still don't know.
Friday the 13th, IMDb describes it as a group of camp counselors trying to reopen a summer camp called Crystal Lake, which has a grim past, are stalked by a mysterious killer. So let me kick it to you guys. Thoughts and feelings. What do we got?
Surprisingly, I think this is kind of mid-tier in the entire franchise. I think the later movies do stuff a lot better. My biggest thing with Friday the 13th is it sets up this big... It's almost a whodunit.
Right.
And then you get to the end and it's like, whodunit? A character you've never seen or heard of until this moment.
I love
exactly,
that.
Yeah. I agree, because if at least, because she's supposed to be like the cook or something like that at the camp,
Right.
if at least we had seen her interact with the counselors at some point, it would have made more sense, or it would have felt more organic. But it just like Stu said, like, boom, who are you? I don't know, but you're dropping this dumb exposition on us, like in the last 20 minutes or something, and it feels forced.
Yeah, it also feels like that is a very strong old lady.
Yes,
With
Yes.
very manly hands.
Yeah, I mean, I've been roughed up a time or two by an elderly person, and
I would too.
I usually feel like I could probably take them, but with Pamela Voorhees, oh boy, I stand no choice.
I know you guys read what I sent to you, but I have thoughts.
Oh,
I have
no.
thoughts on who the killer in Friday the 13th Part 1 is. So
I tend to agree that you may be onto something, because it's
begun.
there could be a second shooter, you know.
This is a tease because we're gonna hit this hard later. Well, maybe not that hard. We're gonna mention it later. But what's interesting, like the whole whodunit thing. I guess Betsy Palmer went to them, the lady who plays Pamela Voorhees, and says, "Couldn't I at least be in the diner or something in the beginning, like waving in the background?" And the producer writer was like, "Who cares? Doesn't matter. We're just trying to rip off Halloween. It does not matter."
That's the whole approach that they took to this series.
So there's a lot I have to talk about. Okay, so number one, back in, what was it, 58, 57, young Jason drowned. I don't know what happened. Like the camp counselor decided, hey, we're teaching swimming lessons. Let's go have sex in a shack out back. Is this a sex farm? What kind of camp is this?
I don't know.
I like how in the 50s too, like the counselors at first seem like pious, like they're sitting there playing like a "Yay, we love Jesus" song.
It's a Christian
and then
camp.
it ends with two of them being like, "All right, let's go into the roof of the barn and bone."
Yeah,
and
while the small child drowns.
And in Freddy vs. Jason, they show like it's other kids that like push him to the lake. I don't know if that's where he's supposed to die, but they show that like they're teasing him and bullying him, and they push him to the lake. So I don't know. Who knows?
Right. So it's, again, kind of a fishy timeline there, right? But it's, I guess, what was she? She was a friend of the owners of the camp. Is that Betsy Palmer? Is that what we're supposed to think? By the way, she was like 52 when she made this movie, but it was a hard 52.
Oh wow! I was gonna say, yeah, that's a high mileage vehicle right there.
It's not the mileage. Yeah.
I think I put this one as, let's see, number 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. This is my 7th of the franchise.
Yeah, mid-tier.
I rated it about
smack in the
2.5.
middle for me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
I mean, I think I like it more than some, because it does kind of set the tone where it's like, it is, albeit, a lousy one, kind of a mystery. You just see the hands coming in. Now there are people who killed off camera were like, how did this elderly lady, like for example, Bing Crosby's son, who's like 6'3", 220, is pinned up against the door. It's okay. Yeah. She's spry.
I'm all strong as hell. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and this is something that Halloween kind of does also, because why do these supposedly mindless killers feel the need to like hide their bodies and then like have them jump at you at the last moment? I don't understand.
That's called showmanship, Carl.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Craftsmanship.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason and Michael are very much into arts and crafts.
They are.
They're taking pride in their art. You can't fault a guy for that, or a Pamela Voorhees for that.
No question. I have to think it had to have been kind of a letdown when it was revealed, hey, the killer's this old woman. I mean,
like like audiences of the time when it was first out.
Yes, don't you think? I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard to say, because you're talking about what year was that? This was released 1980. So, how much of the movie-going audience really had a grasp, like the actress that played her, to be like, it would make more sense if we were to see this. How many people were in dissecting films in the sense that they're like, that was garbage. I've seen better I've written better scripts in my sleep. They're probably just excited to see some titillating stuff and some kills on screen following Halloween. And and they were just happy for it. And then they go, "Wow, that's crazy! It was her the whole time. Oh, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's that child that came out of the lake." You know.
But it's also, I feel it's also like a fun twist on Psycho. Because in Psycho you have the you hear the mother, and then it ends up being the son, and here you have it the other way around. You think it's the son, but it ends up being the mother. So it's a weird twist, badly executed, but sort of a twist on that.
I mean, this was a huge hit. You know, this was. I mean, people were flocking to the theater. I mean, initially, this movie was such a rip that they were basically like, Halloween was a huge hit. What's another kind of spooky date on the calendar we can choose?
Friday the 13th, even though it doesn't have anything to do with anything that happens in the series. Is it Friday the 13th every other day on any other of the other installments? Who cares? It sounds spooky.
Right.
Pamela Voorhees isn't out killing Freemasons.
Yeah. We had a Friday the 13th this year. It's January.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We have another one, I guess, in May, I think. So I plan to record this like not on a Friday the 13th. And it's probably not going to be released on a Friday the 13th either. Very sad. So I guess they said Jason's birthday is June 13th. And that year it happened to be on Friday.
Oh, that's interesting. My birthday is June 14th.
Maybe, here we go.
And I was born on Flag Day. Dun, dun, dun.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
There is a horror movie parody called Saturday the 14th, so maybe that one's about you, Pete.
Yeah, there it is. I like the parody.
We haven't even talked about Kevin Bacon is in this movie.
Oh yeah. One of the how many well-known actors do we know that have made their early steps on known horror franchises? I mean, you have DiCaprio, you have Jennifer Aniston, you have Johnny Depp, and Kevin Bacon. So it's nice to see him here.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun seeing people like that pop up. Later in the series, you get Crispin Glover, and that's probably my favorite part of the entire series is dancing.
Dynamite.
Highlight of the franchise.
Well, what's funny about Kevin Bacon is he had done Animal House like 3 years prior to this. So he was not just fresh off Juilliard or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he wasn't just some kid they brought in and be like, you'll be a big kid, you'll be a big star someday, kid. It was like, yeah, he was already doing stuff, and they were like, you want to do this $500 horror franchise?
Right.
Sure.
And not the star. Just a random camp counselor.
Yeah.
But he has one of my favorite kills.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The arrow.
Is his kill?
Stuck the arrow through the neck. Yeah, on the bed.
Good.
I never in my life want to besmirch the name of Tom Savini because he's amazing, but I love in that scene how his neck is clearly like 3 shades different than the rest of his body.
I don't understand how you can twist the arrow under the bed so it can come. I don't know, but it looks
through
cool.
the mattress.
Yeah. Dodging all the springs.
Right, through his spine. That's a strong arrow. Good stuff.
Yeah.
I think that the allure of just being into something that was that much of a commercial success as Halloween was probably enough to get most people to sign on and be like, sure, maybe it's going to be another lightning in a bottle. Maybe I'm going to be at the beginning of this franchise. And they were.
No question. Now here's okay.
And I feel like we need to jump in here because we rightfully keep calling this movie out for being a ripoff of Halloween. 100% it is, no doubt in my mind, or no doubt in anyone's mind. It's pretty much admitted that. But like, let's not forget that Halloween returned the favor like 1 or 2 years later with Halloween 2 just being a ripoff of this movie.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, no question. And look, it's not Shakespeare. I get it. Stipulated. Okay.
Sure.
But for what it does, I think it does it fairly effectively. Rip off or no?
I think the perspective that I have is that I never saw any of these until this last December, and my COVID riddled brain was trying to process 12 movies at once, and looking at it like, this is what people are going gaga for. The people have tattooed on their flesh, their flesh. They have tattoos of those characters from this series. And, maybe it's just because now there's so much more effective, suspenseful, and admittedly realistic gore that comes from slashers, like modern slashers, that you watch something back then and you're like, wow, this is really tame.
Oh, no question.
This is it very is more like a mystery, like you were saying. And you're just, you're in a different category, not because it is, the modern slashers are classics, because they are never going to hold up to the classics like this or Halloween or whatever. But objectively looking at it through a modern lens, they're not as well executed as the modern stuff. So that's where and my rankings are 100% based off of that.
Okay.
I have no nostalgia for the series, so I think I only have like 3 above the 3-star ranking or something like that. So
that's higher than a lot of people would have movies in this franchise. So
that's
I don't know that a lot of people would have any of these movies over 3 stars. So that's already pretty good.
I'm very, very generous with my star rankings. I watched like I think 26 5-star movies last year or something like that.
Whew.
So I'm very generous with my rankings. I prefer to like a movie than hate a movie, but a lot of these we'll get to the ones later that were
right. Yeah, I hear you. It's a steep climb.
About the success, it's also a time where slashers were obviously because of Halloween, but slashers were kind of going mainstream, and people were kind of flocking. Let's see what this is about. I mean, what are slashers about? Because this is a bit above those cheap slashers or B slashers that nobody knows about, right?
Right.
So I think that. Yeah, and I think that's why it became a hit. It was kind of more accessible than other those that might be more gory or cheaper or whatever you want to call them. Maybe a bit more accessible, a bit more mystery, like we've been talking about, and maybe that's what people liked about.
Yeah, that could be absolutely.
Now there were
Pete,
some
I am
things...
shocked that you didn't watch all these movies and then follow them up by watching the 7-hour documentary Camp Crystal Lake Memories.
It's a good one.
No, really interesting that you say that, because one of my pals on Twitter, Heather, she says I started documenting it, like kind of live tweeting this adventure, and my ranking is still up on my Twitter because it's the most effort I've put into a Twitter post ever. So it's probably going to be pinned to my profile for years now. And she said you have to watch what's the one? It's the fan made movie.
Oh, Never Hike Alone.
Yes.
Okay.
And I do want to watch that one because it's not 7 hours long. But she said followed up with Crystal Lake Memories. And I was like, absolutely, adding it to the list. And I put it on as my 13th entry to the series. And I saw the runtime. I bailed instantly.
I haven't seen it. I have to admit that I haven't seen the documentary. I need to get to it.
I just wanted to throw out to Pete's point. You talk about how modern movies are gorier and they get away with a lot more. You hear repeatedly over Crystal Lake Memories, which goes like what we're doing, movie. But you hear repeatedly about how back in the 80s, they kept having to recut these movies and send them to the MPAA.
Too bloody.
And the director of Part 7 in particular hates the cut of his movie because he kept having to send it back repeatedly. And they were like, no, it's going to be an X. No, it's going to be an X, until he finally got what they would consider an R. And like you said, you watch movies that came out specifically in the 2000s, like the torture porn era of horror, and like these have nothing on those.
Yeah, really.
No. Let me end it with this thought. The final scene, spoiler alert if anybody hasn't seen it,
oh my God,
where little froggy Jason jumps out of the lake, and because Alice, unmotivated, takes a canoe ride, and pulled in
a constant theme throughout the series
is that this happens. Is this a dream, or in the continuity of the story, does this really happen?
Obviously, we are led to believe that it didn't happen that way because he's a kid. He's the boy that jumps from the lake is a kid, and then we see that Jason is actually an adult. But
isn't in the second one she's essentially flashing back to that exact same thing.
They do that through pretty much the first 4. They kind of start with the ending of the previous one. So and all of them end in similar ways. So
yeah, 80s slasher movies are real good for like the first 10 minutes of our movie is the last movie.
The highlight.
Yeah. It's some padding.
I guess we'll never know if it's real life or if it's fantasy. Caught in a landslide. I have no idea.
We know that when the second movie starts, and we're going to jump into that in a moment, it says 2 months later, she is killed by an adult.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, questions. Does it matter? Who knows? Let's.
I know. We're going to get to it later.
I think the filmmakers really, when they actually did the whole kid come out of the water, they just wanted something to get them in for the sequel.
It's a gotcha moment.
Does it make sense?
It was a rip from Carrie. They wanted a Carrie moment. They said this. They weren't thinking about sequels. This was going to be a one-shot cash grab. And let's have that moment. That's all they were thinking about.
Interesting. Okay.
So, but our job is to try to see if it all fits together in some kind of coherent fashion.
Why doesn't fit? Why?
That's right. Okay, here's the question. Thumbs up, thumbs down. You're home alone on a rainy Saturday afternoon. You're flipping channels. You come across Friday the 13th, 1970, or 1980, I should say. Do you watch it? Thumbs up, thumbs down.
I give it about 5 minutes. I want to see what point we're in and go, I remember that. Next one.
Fair enough.
For me, I mean, even the worst ones of this franchise, if I'm somewhere and it's on, I'm watching it. So I don't know that I would necessarily say thumbs up or thumbs down, but like the worst Jason movie, if I'm at a bar or at my friend's house and it's on TV, I'm sitting there watching it because I do have the nostalgia aspect and I love these. So this one, which I said is mid-tier, yeah, I'm definitely watching this one.
Fair enough, Carlo.
Yeah, I think I'm more or less with Stu.
Beautiful. I'm definitely giving it a thumbs up. And not unlike Stu, not all of these will be a thumb up for me.
Ooh,
it gets rough sledding later in the series as far as I'm concerned.
I have 3 that are definitely thumbs down. Absolutely.
Okay, well, there you go.
And then aside from that, none of them go further than like, it's not that bad.
Let's jump right into part 2 from 1981. Okay. Let me see. I usually like to talk about the IMDb review, but of course, I wasn't thinking about that. Good times. Here we go. Part 2. According to IMDb, it says 5 years after the events of the first film, a summer camp next to the infamous Camp Crystal Lake is preparing to open, but the legend of Jason is weighing heavy on the proceedings.
Yeah. I think this is probably my most controversial take. I like this one less than the original.
Oh,
God.
Yeah. I think a lot of people like it more, and I gave this one 2 stars. It's my number 9 of the series.
Get him out.
or
and I respect that they may have actually killed somebody when they did the wheelchair scare. That person may be dead.
I love that so much because for a movie made in 1981, because let's admit, like, we as a society weren't great in 1981, but you have the Mark character and he's wheelchair bound, but he's treated very respectfully the entire movie. Like, he's not the wheelchair guy.
He's about to get laid.
He's about to get laid. The hot girl is super into him. He's not Franklin from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right.
Treated very respectfully, and then is given a complete clown car death that undoes everything that came before it.
They set up his whole backstory. He's like, well, the doctors say I'll never walk again, but you know what? God damn it, I'm gonna walk. No, you're not. You're going down the stairs in a wheelchair, pal.
Since you jump right into it, this is my favorite kill.
Yes,
it's the one I enjoy the most. And it's
in the franchise or in this movie?
From the franchise.
Oh, boom.
Oh, okay.
This is my favorite kill from the franchise, and I love how the director stretches it out because we know what's coming when he's walking out to the balcony or front porch or whatever he's going. You know what's coming, and they stretch it out enough for you to be like on edge, and then wham, and then it's just not that, but the clown car thing, it's just a combination of hilarious and gory and whatever you want to call it, but I love it. It's my favorite.
I like how the dog is safe in this, but not the paraplegic. They fight. I do respect the whole series for that, though. Very little animal death. You know, you see a dog, and you're like, "Oh no, not Poochie," and then Poochie's fine.
Well, Jason does
everyone
eat a
else,
dog.
though.
I think,
but not. What's her name? Yeah, what is the dog's name in
Muffy
this one?
or something? Or
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. There is an eaten dog, but it's not the character dog.
Of all the names they could have chosen, they chose Muffy. Come on.
But this,
I also get a kick out of this one because it feels like they brought in all these actors for tryouts. They didn't want to tell any of them no. So then they had this giant cast and they were like, we can't kill 30 people in an hour and a half. Let's write 2/3 of them out.
Right.
Let's go to the diner, to the bar. Yeah.
They go out drinking all night, and that saves their life.
So if you pay attention to the cast, this is also noteworthy for being one of the few 80s slasher movies where like all the minority characters survive, because there's an Asian girl and a black guy, and they went to the bar. They were safe.
They are extras.
All right.
They had no lines.
Next time you feel the need to go to the bar and have a drink, do it, because that's gonna save you.
That's gonna save you. Even that.
Right, absolutely.
But
that's the message.
This is my favorite film. This is my favorite of the franchise. And I think it has a better pace than the first one. I like the characters more. Jeannie is probably my favorite final girl from the franchise. And yeah, there's silliness. There's that like we're talking about how they get rid of half of the characters midway. But I like the pace. I like the gore. I think it works. But I like potato sack Jason.
Right.
I like the look. I know people say it looks silly, whatever. It's not the hockey mask, but I like it's creepy, and I love the shack scene. The whole setting of the shack, and Pamela Voorhees' head. I love all that, and I like that most of these characters, Jeannie and her boyfriend, what's his face?
Paul.
Yeah, Paul.
How could you forget it? She
Yeah.
wanders around saying Paul for like 5 minutes.
But they behave smarter than most slasher characters. Their actions are smarter than what we might be used to in this kind of films. So that's why I like this one.
Yeah, this was before Jason was essentially the protagonist in these movies, and it was just like, we just need empty-headed bodies for Jason to kill. Like, they dedicated time to these characters. Like, I think, I'm not going to give away where this is on my rankings, but I think technically made, this is the best of the movies, because you care about the characters. They feel like actual human beings. The frights are really there. I think on a technical level, this is the one that it feels like they put the most effort into, but that's clearly not true, because it came out like less than 12 months after the original. It was clearly a cash grab, but I feel like they did a really good job on this one.
Is this the one where they have at the beginning the guys shooting a slingshot at the girl's butt?
Yes.
That may be my all-time favorite scene in any movie ever. Since it was not played for laughs, and they had no self-awareness that was funny, it loses points for me. It was in another. That looks like a scene from like Wet Hot American Summer.
This is 1981. That's how they did it in 81.
I know, and I'm watching that, and it's like he like holds a little slingshot up and like, "Hey, baby, that was me." And you're like, Carl. Yeah, or whatever that was. I don't know. I posted on my Twitter. Somebody had they did a Mentos commercial music over that.
I saw that. That was hilarious. Yeah,
it's fantastic. I'll probably add it to the chain on the
This
post.
movie is interesting because the studio was like, we got to have a sequel, and the entire creative team of the first movie were like, pass, we're out, no thanks. So they brought in Steve Miner to direct it, who did work on the first one, but wasn't the director. And again, rips ahoy. They basically took the look of Jason from a movie from the 70s called The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which was another kind of a slasher thing, burlap sack on the head. A lot of the kills were taken from a previous slasher movie from the 70s called The Bay of Blood, like the chop right to the head, the couple having sex in the bed who gets skewered with a spear. Why is there a spear at a summer camp? Who knows? Not important. But I agree. It's still that thing where it's like the POV shot where you just see the hands. The death of Crazy Ralph. We didn't talk about Ralph. The Prophet of Doom. This was kind of a new trope that had been created as well. So there's a lot to like about this movie. I agree that the relationships seem real to a certain degree. But I love what's his name? Stu, the guy who's like, hey, is there an after hours club? Because the other 50 of us are still going to be out partying all night. So that was good. Any last thoughts or feelings?
I feel like I kind of want to do a rewatch on this one. There's not a ton of them that I want to do a rewatch, besides maybe Jason X. And I love Jason X. The mask is so stupid. I love it. And but it feels so almost like a parody. And I just couldn't get past that. Some of the kills were fun enough, but the wheelchair scenes that stand out, no doubt, 100%.
Do we know if Paul lives or dies?
No, they never say. I don't.
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things in the franchise to figure out. I go with at the beginning of the next movie, the one lady's watching TV and TV says there was one survivor. Right. So I assume he dies. This is another one of those, like, does that scene at the end actually happen or is it a dream? Mm-hmm. I think it actually happens. I think Jason kills Paul in the end there and Ginny's the only survivor. But there's arguments to be made both ways because this franchise is this franchise.
Right. This is also one, the first movie where they decided, you know what? First they hired an actor to play Jason. And halfway along the line, they're like, why are we paying an actor? We just need a stuntman. He doesn't have lines. He's not acting. There's no character growth or anything. So, yeah, so two men play Jason in this movie. Yeah. Warrington Gillette. You see him basically when he takes off, and you see his crazy hillbilly face for some reason. Every other time, it's a guy named Steve Dash, the stuntman. And never again will you see an actor playing Jason. So this is important to know. Good time.
I wish they would have just put a second eye hole. Just for a little, it makes you appreciate how well with modern masks in movies, when you have something like that with a hole cut in it, they almost like have to paint their face black or put some sort of like black see-through screen in it so you can't see the person's skin on the inside. And just seeing him like peeping through the hole, like he's trying to like look through a keyhole like all the time. What kind of depth perception can you have with that, boy? Cut a second eye hole. It's like the whole scene from Django Unchained when they're talking about how shitty the mask is. I was thinking about that. It's like,
that is true.
I hate the goddamn shit out of this thing.
So, thumbs up, thumbs down. Are you watching this?
Oh, big thumbs up for me.
Actually, yes, I will watch this. Because I think I need to get in your guys' headspace. I need to get on your level.
And Carlo, you said thumbs up as well?
Definitely.
Absolutely. No question. Let's continue on. Part 3 from 1982. Jason Voorhees stalks a group of friends who've just arrived to spend the weekend at a cabin near Crystal Lake. This one was in 3D. So good times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the movie that should have been subtitled Jason Part 3. Everything is coming right at you.
Clothesline, yo-yos, whatever.
Exactly.
Popcorn, snakehead.
Yeah. Ice.
Unmotivated handstands. Yes.
You guys can just do handstands with friends when you were
Hours
kids?
of fun.
Yeah. Woo!
No, this is important because this movie was basically made with the same creative staff, same director as the second film, and yet Jason looks entirely different. Wildly different. Not just the hockey mask, this is the important because it's the first movie that has the hockey mask, but without the mask, no longer crazy hillbilly Jason. Now it's 6'5" NFL linebacker, bald, sloth from the Goonies is basically now Jason.
He's turning into Michael Myers, the Hulk.
I like that the whoever is in charge of making these films pays enough attention to the continuity of stuff like, the mask has to have the break from the axe, but we don't care if Jason looks entirely different, but the mask has to have this, or the mask has to be broken here or something like that. We have to keep that, but it doesn't matter if he has hair or doesn't have hair, if he's bald or whatever, he's taller, he's shorter, no, it doesn't matter.
Right.
it's a stressful gig being a mass murderer. Maybe he's stressed out. He got the alopecia and the hair came off.
The best of us.
Now here we are judging him on the podcast, on internet radio, for everyone to hear our.
He shaved. He was like, shh.
He shaved overnight because part 3 takes place the day after part 2.
Yes.
All that hair fell out in one day, and he lost his right ear.
This is funny. So the 2, 3, and 4 literally take place back to back to back in ways that don't make sense narratively. But we'll get into that. Good times.
We'll get into it in part 4, or maybe we'll just mention here, but the brother character in part 4 comes in and he's like, oh, my sister was killed. And he pulls out like these yellowed news strips. And it's like, bitch, she died 2 days ago. How old is that newspaper?
Yeah. She was murdered on a Friday. It's Tuesday. Okay, give the cops a chance.
That's so funny. I had no idea. That's so funny.
Kevin, how much will you wait to look for Erin?
Say that again?
How long would you wait to look for Erin if she disappeared?
Please. If it's, look, she's my sister. I love her dearly. But if there's a mass murderer on the loose, I'm just leaving it up to the proper authorities at that stage of the game. I'll have a tersely worded tweet.
He's not going to Liam Neeson his way back. I like this one better than the first 2. This is my number 6 in the series. Only, and if I don't really care about the whole annoying 3D shots that are shoehorned in. I could understand that was a product of the time, and I'm just kind of get a giggle out of those every time. Like, whoa, look at that! But it was way fun. It was a lot of fun compared to the other 2, and I feel like this franchise, you have to have fun with it, or else you're taking it way too seriously. Kill effects were good. Easter egg homage to Tom Savini, and Diane Kimmel as Christine is phenomenal in the back of that cop car when she's having her freak out. That was, I believe that. I was like, wow, she's in some trauma right now.
I absolutely agree. The whole point of watching these movies is they're supposed to be fun. In my opinion, they should be fun. I'm not getting scared. This isn't scary stuff we're talking about. It's supposed to be fun. And it is like we say, at this point, Jason is the protagonist. It's like we're rooting for Jason to do his business.
You're rooting for Jason as soon as you meet Shelly.
Oh, absolutely.
You're like, oh, Jason, get this guy.
Poor Shelly. Good times.
This is here. Pete and I are completely on opposite sides on 2 and 3 because this is bottom tier for me. I know I'm in the minority. Most people love this one or have it rank higher, but this is bottom tier for me. I really don't like it. Putting aside the silly 3D also, but a lot of the things that happen feel like repetitions. Even the kills, even some of the kills feel like, okay, you've done this before, same old. I don't like the story that they're trying to weave about Chris and how she was supposedly attacked by Jason. It makes no sense. I mean, why not try to make sense that she was attacked earlier in the film or try to bring a character from the second one? I mean, they tried to bring Jeannie, but I think she didn't want to do it.
There's
I think
a lot of that, yeah.
But it really makes no sense the way that they try to put this narrative. Oh, this is a character that we know nothing about, but she was attacked by Jason, God knows when. So it's I really don't like it.
Well, I mean, this movie's notable because no mention of Friday the 13th, the date. Jason's name is never stated, and this is not a camp.
Interesting. I guess I never realized they didn't say his name. How do we know that is Jason? Maybe he's a copycat killer.
Multiple Jasons.
We're getting there.
We gotta wind him up.
You guys keep setting me up for this. You know what? I'm splitting the difference here. This is another mid-tier Jason for me. I have in my overall rankings, this is actually right next to the original one. I think it's fine. I think it does everything a Friday the 13th needs to do, but I am of the mind where the 3D effects really do detract from me because I'm watching this and I can't help but like And it's not like, this isn't Oppenheimer. Like, I'm not watching this movie and be like, I'm engaged in what's going on. But this movie just keeps reminding me that it's a movie because it's like, oh, remember this shot that you were supposed to see in 3D but can't now? Well, here it is.
Right. Now, it's controversial because for no reason at all, there is a pregnant woman in this movie. Why is she pregnant? Why is this important? Just to be disturbing.
I have no
I guess. Is this fun?
I guess it's the same reason why was
Yes!
Mark in a wheelchair in the second one. He just was.
Why not? Good grief.
Okay, I have one movie that does that exact thing. The best is the opening scene from Final Destination when they're loading on the plane and the guy looks over and sees the mentally challenged person, the baby, and the nun, and he goes, "Oh, thank God! What a terrible God it'd have to be to bring this plane down." And then it happens, and you're like, "Ow!" You're thinking from the perspective of the main characters, and you're like, "Oh, I'm glad that Stifler got off that plane." And then the whole plane goes down. You're like, "What about all those other people? What a terrible God in this universe!"
That is dynamite.
I think that one thing that's worth mentioning is the hockey mask. I mean, this is the first time that we see the hockey mask, and I actually found out later in life how that came to be. And I remember, I don't remember who exactly was it. I don't know if it was the director or the prop guy or someone that was a hockey fan, and he brought like a bag of hockey stuff. And they said, okay, let's see. Okay, let's grab a hockey mask and talk about a line in a bottle clever moment, because I mean, for all its faults, Friday the 13th is definitely more popular than any of the other franchises. Even if you say it's the worst of the Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, or Friday the 13th, whatever you want to call it, but everybody knows who the Jason is. Everybody.
No question.
Yep.
It's such an iconic look. I mean, it definitely looks cool as hell, and it's such a clever marketing tool from now on. I mean, it's great.
No question. I think it's important, like looking back, people who are just cursorily like familiar with the series are shocked to realize Jason's not the killer in the first movie, and the hockey mask doesn't even appear till the third movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Those
crazy.
were very iconic moments that I was kind of shocked for when I watched the series through. I knew the twist of the first one because of Scream, and also I played the Friday the 13th video game where it's like a very fun group game, and you are as counselors, and there's like one Jason, and to defeat Jason, you have to dress up as his mother. And that's one of the things, and like visit the shack and get the wig and get the sweater and go out there. It was pretty fun. So, I couldn't believe it took 3 movies to get to Hockey Mask Jason.
And you especially think about how iconic this is, how successful it is. In the first 5 or 6 years of Friday the 13th movies, in the first 5 movies they released, only twice do you get Jason in a hockey mask is the killer.
That's right.
It's true.
Pete mentioned the new Friday the 13th game, and my mind went back to the old NES game. that difficult as hell.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever played that one.
The purple Jason.
It's terrible. Yeah, that's the Jason that's above my head. That's what that's based on is NES Jason.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
Now, this is the first movie, as we established, with the hockey mask, but it's also the basically the full caricature that we come to appreciate of Jason as the big, super strong, basically unstoppable killer. I mean, he takes a hatchet to the forehead. He gets hung. And he's fine. He picks up the boyfriend like it's nothing and just goes and pops his head like a grape.
Yeah.
He becomes an unstoppable Hulk, like just a monster from another dimension in this movie.
Absolutely. Any last thoughts before we move on?
It's mid-tier. Like I said, it's fine. It's one of the Friday the 13th is probably the most forgettable to me whenever I'm thinking of the entire franchise. I'll watch it. It's perfectly fine. I don't have a problem with it. It's just, it's so mediocre in the franchise for not being great, not being bad. It's just there.
Just to hammer down the what I said about it, but this is yet another one that ends up with a character pushing a boat into the lake and having a dream-like sequence.
Which makes absolutely
kind of
no
the same.
sense. Again, no one has told her anything about Jason's mother.
Yeah. So to get to it, thumbs down from me.
What do you think of Pete?
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm not going to rewatch this, even though I like it better than Friday the 13th Part 2. Nah, not going to watch it.
I feel like Pete's letting us bully his opinions.
No, here's the thing. It's like I am when we get into the real shit shows, my lowest ranked one, if I see that on TV, I'm watching it. But all this, like, it's either I want something hot or something cold, but it's lukewarm. I spit you out of my mouth, right? It's like I want something that's gonna really catch me. And if it's somebody getting their head punched off on a rooftop that rolling into a dumpster, I want to see that scene.
I mean, that's basically what my whole podcast is about. So I get that. I totally get that. Hot or cold, lukewarm, hard pass. Okay.
There you go.
Friday the 13th, not called Part 4, just called The Final Chapter. And spoiler alert, not the final chapter.
Yeah, really.
IMDb describes this. After being announced dead and taken to a morgue, Jason Voorhees spontaneously revives, escapes from the hospital, and stalks a group of friends renting a house in the countryside near Crystal Lake. What do you guys think? Hit me.
I'm going to go into this one because this is my biggest contrarian opinion. I have this one near the bottom of the list. Like, I know people love this one. I know Corey Feldman is really good in it. Crispin Glover does the dance scene that everybody loves. And I know, once again, I'm watching Jason movies because I've watched these like 50 times in my life and I'm watching them through a different lens at this point. This is the one that when I watch it, I think is technically made the worst.
Ooh.
Like the editing choices in this one are so befuddling where it's like something happens and then there's a quick cut to something. And I have to rewind and watch and see like, what just happened? What did this movie tell me happened? And it's also the movie where I have the hardest time ever discerning where one character is from anybody else. Like, I don't know if these characters are 8 miles apart or next door neighbors, because Tommy clearly is looking out the window and sees the people next door about to bang. So like their houses have to be next door to each other. But later on in the movie, it takes characters like an hour to get from one house to the other. And it's just like, was anyone paying attention when they were cutting this movie together as to what happened 2 minutes ago?
It was a rush job.
To be clear, your main gripe with this is the editing.
No, it's a Jason movie. It's a Jason movie. And my problem with it is like, I would have cut those scenes together differently, editor.
That's a really bold choice there. It's an interesting editing take. This is my number 2 of the series. This is my second highest ranking. And it's got a lot of kills, a lot of nudes, a lot of Crispin Glover dancing. And then when the Jason is quote unquote killed, that was pretty good. My notes were that the sliding face when Jason is quote unquote killed was
Tom
great.
Savini.
Loved it.
This is top tier for me. Top tier, closer to the middle, but top tier. It's not great by any means, but I like the kills. I think the kills are creative. There's the corkscrew. There's the impale.
There's the damn corkscrew.
Yeah,
I love that scene.
Can you see it there? No, but Jason's death is pretty cool. Corey Feldman is a likable lead. It makes no sense that he's so skilled and that he's gonna make all this effort. Well, Jason is attacking your sister. Okay, let me shave and let me do this. All this. Are you okay? Let me just. It makes no sense, but at least you see that there's some attempt to make something. Like a sort of story or a more thoughtful narrative, even if it doesn't make any sense. But I like it. I have fun with it.
No question.
And this one, Jason definitely does kill a dog.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. I don't remember that part.
Gordon,
maybe I chose to block it from my
where
memory.
are you? Yeah. Poor Gordon.
Does he chuck Gordon out a window? Is that what happens? It's another one of those scenes where it's edited weird. Like you see Gordon, you see Jason, and then like Gordon, they never interact, and then Gordon's just out a window. So I don't know if he's running in terror or if he gets chucked out.
Yeah, I was gonna say Gordon actually leapt out
He said, "I'm out of
to
here."
escape Jason.
Okay.
It was a willful jump.
That was a willful jump through the window.
That's how I choose to believe it.
All right.
I love
accept
that there's an extended scene where the dude from Last American Virgin is just watching porn in the front room for 30 minutes. People walking by. He's like, I'll just be here.
Watching 1920s porn.
At least excuse yourself from the room, bro. I mean, come on, keep it together. This was an all-star cast. We talked about Crispin Glover. We talked about Corey Feldman. There was also Last American Virgin guy. There was the guy from The Powers of Matthew Starr, which is a popular show of the 80s.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the girl from Weird Science was in this. Also, another unmotivated, I'm going to hop in the raft in 30-degree weather and go for a swim naked. That's how we do it.
Weird.
Very weird. Good grief. I love the strange hippie woman eating a banana on the side of the road who's killed for no reason.
Yeah. That was as far of a left field
And
kill
no
you can
lives.
get.
She conveniently has "fuck you" written on the other side of her sign.
Been down this road before, evidently. Oh, and of course, Axel, the necrophiliac coroner guy who at the beginning of the movie is trying to have sex literally next to the body of Jason. Good time. And he played Fackler from the Police Academy movies. So there you go. All-star cast.
Wonderful.
Is this the one where I kind of got it mixed up, but he's the guy that he like slashes the throat and twists the head,
like
right?
a saw and goes across the neck and then pops his head around.
One of my favorite kills. Yeah.
I like the kills in this one a lot. Yeah.
The girl gets thrown out the window. That's always a classic. You can't go wrong. Let me just reach in. Tasha.
Yeah. I think I used that GIF when Josh went out of the chat. You're out.
Oh yeah, we didn't even mention the fact that we had a few more homies who were going to be in this group.
Yeah, they were on the road with a sign.
Nobody picked them up.
This recording might be as long as Crystal Lake Memories if everyone was here.
Yeah.
Good times. Okay, last thoughts on the final chapter.
If I see it on, I'm probably not going to watch it. Second in the series, top tier, 3.5 stars. Not going to watch it.
No.
Yeah.
Thumbs up for me. I would watch it.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it because I'm gonna watch any of these. But yeah, I'm once you get into the third act, I'm always gonna be like, I don't know what's happening.
Good times. Okay. Pardon me. Friday the 13th, A New Beginning was released in 1985, and it's another mystery. You know what I mean? We don't know. Is Jason back? Who can say? IMDb describes this as still haunted by his past. Tommy Jarvis, who has a child killed Jason Voorhees, is sent to a secluded halfway house in the countryside, where the killing of a young man triggers a brutal series of murders in the area.
This is such a weird movie. It baffles my mind that they released this as a full feature-length film in the 80s. Because if you equate the Jason movies to a television show, if you're like a 12-episode TV show, this is the episode 7 filler episode that everyone can just skip and never watch.
The devil, you say. This is want me to go there? This is one of my favorites. Because it is so bonkers. It is so off the
John from The Pint, who I said I did every one of these movies with one at a time. He loves this one. I think this is his favorite.
Wow.
And it's so weird to me.
It is so great. Like literally until the end when actual hockey mask appears, then it gets kind of boring. But up to that point, all the crazy characters, I mean, it's literally a halfway house for troubled psychos in the woods where it's like, what's your problem? Well, I stutter. What? So you're sent to... What's your issue? Oh, I'm emo and listen to weird new wave music. Okay. You do the
robot.
Yes. That is a problem.
Yeah, their neighbors were very strange too. The kid with the motorcycle and the
weird
mom.
hillbillies.
In a franchise full of unlikable characters, those neighbors are the most unlikable characters.
They're up there, definitely.
I was never rooting for someone to get murdered as hard as right then. But This is my bottom, not my last in this series, but my second to the last. This is number 11. And if I had if I found a time machine, I'd go back to before I watched this and skip it. It's terrible. Terrible.
Yeah. It's near the bottom for me. Bottom tier, definitely. Not the worst, but close.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. This is my number 11. It's the second to the worst for me. This one was made by a porn director. Like, it wasn't even a real movie director. They just brought a porn director on, and he was like, "Well, I know how to do. Well, I know how to do one thing, and that's I'm going to put so many boobs in this movie. You have no idea."
No complaints. I mean, what?
Yeah. I think I'm going to have to go back and I can't believe I'm saying these words and rewatch the whole series uncut, because a lot of these I watched on Tubi, and I'm missing a lot of them. Someone told me I did my ranking. Yeah, I did my ranking, and someone's like, how could you say that there's no good kills in that? There's some fantastic kills. I'm like, where? They cut away from every one, and that was
No, that's this
Tubi.
movie. This movie cuts away from all the kills. That's just how this one is cut together. Like, you start seeing him do something, then it kind of cuts away. That's just the kills in this one.
The one that was the egregious cut was the sleeping bag. There's like the girl on top having sex in the tent, and like the spear goes through her or something, and like bisects her or something like that. Yeah, and in the version that I saw, it basically was a cutaway, and you don't see any of the gore.
That's the theatrical version. They cut away from that. I've seen the uncut version, and it is different.
So that is the theatrical version.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's the director's cut. Who's to say?
I wasn't shortchanged then. I was just I wasn't watching the extended edition. Okay, that's fair. Never mind. This won't be rewatching.
I have to talk about this. I have to sell it, because there is so much. You have Dudley from Different Strokes is in this movie, and he goes to meet his brother Demon, the extended, who lives out of his van, I guess, with Anita, his girlfriend, where there's just all
and just a ton of food.
Just a ton. Yeah. You want some egg rolls? And the immortal scene, damn enchiladas, where he has to run to the outhouse. Good.
Yeah.
Comedy gold. What are you guys talking about? Sweet Jesus. The whole intro where we meet the camp. And first of all, here's Tommy. How old is Tommy supposed to be? Like, how many years do we think have passed? 30?
I have this one at being, and this is one of the more ambiguous time jumps. Like, you cannot find a definitive answer to the time jump for this movie. I have it at being like 5 to 6 years. I think he goes from being like 12 to, I think he's supposed to be 17 or 18, but you can't find proof.
They kept trying to turn Tommy into the killer. Like, at the end of part 4, they kind of set it up.
Yeah, that's what they wanted.
Look out. He's unhinged Corey Feldman, not unlike the real Corey Feldman. Yeah. and the same thing with this one. They ended up where now he's putting on the mask, and every time people are like, no one wants Tommy Jarvis to be the killer. Just bring back Jason.
Yeah.
Nobody wants the hockey mask with the blue stripes. Bring us back the hockey mask with the one red stripe. Damn it.
That would have been more interesting if they had gone with Tommy turning into the killer. I think that might
you say.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to talk about the next ones now, but I think it would have been, I don't know, cool.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I like the idea of an evolution in a series where, like, I was probably one of the few people that really loved Halloween Ends. And I think the end of Halloween Ends, they fumbled the bag a little bit, because they could really 100% defined the future. I won't. But they really could have 100% defined the future of the franchise moving forward, and then they didn't. So I respected it, and then I lost my respect for it. But in this, if you could have gone Tommy Jarvis moving forward, he could have filled out the next few movies in the franchise and had some cohesiveness, and then they split off in a different direction. And then when lightning bolt strikes Jason in the grave, he comes back again, and you're like, yes, new tone, camp, cheese, all that.
I love it.
I want to know how, in the modern era of social media and being online to promote your podcast and everything, Carlo, you've somehow dodged Halloween Ends spoilers?
I don't know, man. I've been lucky enough. I haven't seen any of the 3 new ones. I have to get to it.
Oh, okay.
You like that series, the Halloween in general?
Yeah. but that's I don't know. I don't want to deviate, but I'm trying to rewatch the old ones before I dive into the new ones. I know they don't have necessarily anything to do, but I want to rewatch like at least 4 and 5 before jumping into.
I'm going to give us
new
an
ones.
opportunity to kind of compare and contrast briefly later in the podcast what our feelings are about these different Nightmare on Elm Streets and Halloween's versus Friday the 13th. Okay. So we're going to talk about it. So buckle up.
Cool.
Good grief. This movie is one of the first ones that I noticed, other than poor Banana Girl, where they just introduce a character just to be killed 5 minutes later. Like, here's the weird orderly picking up his girlfriend while they're doing coke in the back of his Trans Am. Dead. The weird 1950s greasers that show up from a time warp. I don't know. Why are they here? Mm-hmm. They're dead.
Yeah.
That is just a thing in slasher movies. Slasher movies insisted that the greaser character in real life existed much longer than they actually did.
Yeah.
And that is a thing in slashers, just to introduce a character, just to kill them off. I mean,
I don't mind that at all. I like to build up the kill count for people that we don't care about, and I feel like it's also fun to do it in fun and creative ways too. Didn't he like smash the head in the door or something like that in the car? Like, there's some good stuff there. I like that, but overall, the concept of the halfway house was pretty cool, but all of it was it amounted to just kind of a wet fart for me.
Well, Tommy was basically kind of borderline catatonic for a lot of this movie, and I think on some level we were supposed to suspect him as being the killer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For sure.
And then there's a weird drifter that shows up to do yard work.
Yeah, I was gonna say this movie gives you, to its credit, this movie gives you a lot of red herrings, but as somebody, not Pete, I've watched this movie so many times. When I watched it this time, I was like, oh my God, it's so obvious. Yes. They're not even trying to hide it early on.
The paramedic.
Go ahead.
No, that the paramedic, when you look at him when he's picking up the body of his son, I mean, you see
they tried to add more scenes to make it, not a surprise where Miss Voorhees pops up and goes, hey, it's me. They wanted you to have those moments where it's like the sheriff goes, I wonder if we're ever going to catch this killer. And then Roy shows up, talking to me, Sheriff? This guy right here? This guy with the club? Absolutely. Oh, goodness. And poor Joey, just trying to share his candy bars with the other killer in the movie, Vic. There's multiple murderers in this movie.
Vic, yeah. That Vic character, man. Like, what the hell? Like, that guy is not fit to be in society at all.
Don't give him an axe.
How did he make it that far in life?
And
Kid offers him a candy bar, and he's like, that's it. That's the last straw. That's all that Vic can take.
Is it chocolate?
Let's give him an axe.
I have a nut allergy.
Have the unhinged guy.
That is a strange choice to take a house full of troubled children and give them sharpened axes to do chores with.
And as far as we know, Vic, the murderer, scot-free, lives a long and happy life.
Yeah, we never see his body. He's the one character in this movie that Roy should kill, and we have no idea.
He's taken away by the cops, and that's basically it. Who knows? There's no witnesses to the crime now, so who knows? Acquitted.
Wow. That's a good point.
Okay. So you guys all said thumbs down. I'm an enthusiastic thumbs up, baby. Let me tell you.
The people who like this movie, I'm telling you, love this movie. Because it's you and John, man. You're both way high on this one. So this movie needs its defenders. Good on you.
You have to be in the right frame of mind. You just have to accept it is ridiculous. And that's okay with me. I'm down with that. The next film in the series, Jason Lives, Friday the 13th, Part 6. Tommy Jarvis exhumes Jason Voorhees to cremate his corpse, but inadvertently brings him back to life instead. That's always a problem. The newly revived killer seeks revenge, and Tommy may be the only one who can stop him. What do you guys got?
Love this one. Love it. Love it so much. This is the first one in the franchise where this movie knows what it is. This movie knows how stupid the premise of what it is, and it just embraces the hell out of it. I wouldn't go as far as to say this movie's a horror comedy, but boy, it's
close.
It's a hair underneath it.
Yeah, I agree.
I love this movie for just it just hugs the entire concept of what the Friday the 13th should be.
Yeah, definitely upper tier for me. I think this is the first one that I saw actually, and maybe it's because of that. Maybe it's because it's that good, or that funny, or however you want to call it. But I love it. I think Tom McLaughlin did a great job, bringing the cheesiness and the camp and the fun, and mixing it with the necessary gore and the horror and thrills that you want to have on the franchise. The opening scene is great. I love all the whole setting and the cemetery and the whole way that Jason appears. When you see, like you were talking about, when you see Jason revived by a lightning bolt through a spear, I mean, you know what you're getting into, and it works. It definitely works for me. The kills are good, characters are fun. I really love it.
Yeah, this is my number one of the series.
Vroom.
I love this movie. This is a great movie. So it's got finally has some camp in a series that's set at a summer camp, which is great. Jason is officially a zombie now, so traditional logic does not apply, and it's refreshing to finally 6 movies in have intentionally a fun movie. The creative kills, an actual protagonist, and a very satisfying ending. This one I would absolutely rewatch if it came on.
And we get little kids at a little kid camp finally.
That's what I'm saying. You see an actual camp, functioning camp.
I think we're dead meat. One of my favorite lines.
Yeah.
I do admittedly hate those 2 little boys because I think they take the silliness a little too far, but it's just what were you going to be when you grew up? Kids, you should be a little more terrified.
One kid is reading a book, no exit.
Yeah.
Yeah, existential. What like a Russian philosopher or something like that.
No, there's a lot to appreciate about this movie. Again, all-star cast. You got Horshack from Welcome Back, Kotter, who's in this for some reason. Who the hell knows what's happening here? This is another movie with 2 Jasons. By the way, there's the Jason for the
there's inexplicably fat Jason, and then there's Jason
exactly
the
right.
rest
During
of the movie.
paintball
Jason
scene, they hired the stuntman Dan Bradley. And they saw the dailies are like, he is way too fat. We got to get. So if you watch, little heavier. Then they hired ex-Marine, current bouncer, C.J. Graham to step in for the rest of the movie, and he's quite good.
It's all that walking. It's all that walking.
So you're right, zombie Jason. So he's just getting shot, no problem. I'm good with that. Also, teleporting Jason. Where it's like now he always just walks, but now he just appears in front of you spontaneously. Yeah. So that's good stuff too.
That gets a lot worse, but this is kind of where it starts. Yeah. What we love, or what I love, we talked about zombie Jason and, the rules don't apply. He's different now. The scene where he grabs the guy's arm and he just wants to pull the guy backward, but he rips his arm off and throws the guy into a tree. And he looks at the machete because you can tell he's like, oh shit, I'm awesome now.
Yeah. I love that he steals a utility belt from one of the paintball guys who has like throwing darts in there. What are you? It's a paintball game.
I might need this later.
I think they have a very similar like power reveal scene in Rookie of the Year when he realizes he can throw a baseball very fast, and he looks at his arm like, "What have they done to me?"
Took out a connection.
Yeah, except for he uses his powers for good to win the World Series.
Are you saying Jason isn't using his powers for good?
I guess it's debatable.
Court in the van didn't deserve to be killed.
Yeah, this is a really fun movie.
Yeah.
I'm bordering on 4 stars for this. I still gave it 3.5, but it was
it's
a really
almost
fun movie.
like you could just show it on regular TV. I mean, even the kills are not that violent. Yeah. There's a lot.
Yeah, this is one that got sent back a lot. Yeah. Yeah, this was one that got sent back a lot. It's not as bad as 7, but they talk about how this one got sent back and forth and back and forth. Because I think especially where the sheriff, what's her name, Rachel, her dad, whenever he gets like accordioned in half, they had to do that. They had to cut that so many times. They didn't like it at the MPAA.
I loved it. What could I say?
It's a great kill, though.
It's one of my favorites,
kill. And it's funny, too, because, he's one of the few characters that does really well against Jason for a while. He's on Jason, clobbering him with the rock, and until he hears his daughter scream, you think, oh, shit, Sheriff's got this one in the bag. Then he gets distracted like a schmuck, like a pro wrestler, and somebody's entrance music hit on the ramp. He's like, "What?"
That's great, Paul.
We also didn't mention Tony Goldwyn is in this briefly as the camp director. Tony Goldwyn, who was in Ghost, more recently Scandal. So, like I said, all-star cast.
Okay. Oh, that is him. He was the president in Scandal. Okay, yeah. I think every time I talk about this movie, I find that out for the first time. Because I watched this movie and I'm like, that looks like the president from Scandal, and I've forgotten I already knew that.
There's the entirely unsexy sex scene in the back of the camper where it was like,
yeah.
Do you know what sex is like? It ain't like that.
Yeah, she's on top and she's more dancing than having sex.
That's a technique.
Now she's from
It's a job
Can't Buy
done.
Me Love.
I'll tell you what, boys.
It's like I remember her from that movie as like the sexy cheerleader to this movie. And then her head gets squished through the side of the wall, the camper. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So, okay, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Thumbs way up.
Good.
Yeah, I will watch this.
It's a clean sweep. Next, now, in my opinion, it gets a little dodgy. Part 7, The New Blood. Let's see. In this one, because they kept wanting to have Jason fight Freddy, but because they worked for two different companies, it was Paramount versus New Line at the time, they couldn't do that. So they said, let's have him fight Carrie, or our knockoff version of Carrie. Jason Voorhees is accidentally freed from his watery prison by a telekinetic teenager. Now only she can stop him.
Well, I mean, the tagline sounds convincing, right? So far, traditional methods have not worked on Jason Voorhees. We need to crack the egg open on something new. You know, we're gonna set this fire starter girl on him, but it's like he's accidentally awakened because of her hormones. You know, for some reason, she's getting all like riled up and angry, and just that. Then she's saved by her. Spoilers. She's saved by her dead dad, who shows zero signs of decay after 8 years under the water.
And he was 5'5", 130, soaking wet.
Makes no sense. Yeah. Makes no sense.
It almost feels like they're trying to like build a Rube Goldberg device to like capture Jason with the chains and the rocks and all this other stuff, which I can appreciate it. But this is tied for me with A New Beginning, with just a terrible movie. Terrible.
It's bottom tier for me. Bottom to mid tier. It's in that range. Not one of the three worst maybe, but more close to the first one and lower tier. I mean, it makes no sense. I don't. Tina is her name, right?
Yes,
Tina, the character's name.
Yeah. She's okay, but she's pretty much the only character I care in it. But it's stupid. It's overall it's just a stupid premise, and I really didn't like it. I've never liked it.
I'll be the one who comes in hot here. This is my number 3 in the franchise. I really like this one. I think like everything that comes before it is hit or miss. I tend to like this movie front to back. I don't have any issues with it. But boy, when you get to the end, I think the Tina confrontation with with Jason is phenomenal. I think their fight scene is fantastic. Like, she's doing all this stuff. She electrocutes him with the wire in the puddle, and she breaks his mask on his face, and she helps this movie set a record for the longest controlled burn ever shown on a movie. And I just,
that's cool.
I really have a lot of fun with this one, because you finally, the last movie you set up like, Jason is Superman now. And so you need to have someone for him to fight. And so this one spends an hour being an action movie, or an hour being a horror movie, and then for the last half hour you've got an action movie. And I really like it. I think just the fight between them is so much fun.
I think it could have been the editing of that. I'll be the one that picks on that for this one. The editing of that fight scene was, I mean, I'm just kind of waiting for something to happen, and you're almost seeing her powers grow with every second. Every time she does something new, it's exponentially more effective than the last one. It just seems, I don't know. It had, the setup wasn't there for it to pay off for it, but I do like the premise. I think they fumbled it though.
I will say you guys were talking about her dad coming out of the lake at the end, and we've talked about the dream sequences and what happened and what didn't happen. My interpretation was always like, that's not her actual dad coming out of the lake. That's just basically a manifestation of her powers. Like she pulls the chain out of with her telekinesis, and just like in her stress destroyed mind, she just kind of pictured it as being her dad. So completely open-ended. If you tell me I'm full of shit, I buy it. That's just one of those things where like, I just assumed that was like her stress-racked brain just pictured it that way, but it's still her telekinesis just doing that to Jason.
Interesting. That's like the end of Contact. It wasn't really her dad in there.
Contact. I think we can all agree.
Okay.
My biggest issue with this movie is it's like too many randos is what I call it. In all the other movies, you'd have these main characters that you kind of grew to appreciate on some level. And then you'd have the greasers pop up who are dead. And here's the banana woman and she's dead. This movie was just the
two hippies from part 3.
This was just a cavalcade of randos. It was like, here, I'm walking through the forest, dead. Hey, I'm doing this, dead. Now I'm fixing my hair, now I'm dead. Right? It's like, I didn't care about any of these characters, even a little bit. You know what I mean? There was a science fiction guy. Yeah. I appreciated him for 5 seconds as he was cast away from the conjugal bed. Very upsetting. So,
you know what's good about this movie with the characters, though, is this movie gives you at least 2, if not 3 or 4 characters that, like, this movie knows you're going to cheer for when they die. Yes. The doctor, you're 100%. They're setting him up. You're going to be happy when he dies. The bitchy, like, Melissa, what's her name? I can't remember if her name's Melissa. Like, you're going to be happy when she dies. And the movie at this point knows, like, we're full-fledged into Jason is the hero of these movies. We need people that we're going to be happy to see die. And this movie's like, here's a bunch of them.
Yeah, I like that.
Now, in terms of timeline, correct me if I'm wrong, when it flashes back to like her youth, when she's a little girl, Jason's already chained up at the bottom of the lake, right? Or am I misremembering this?
Yes, that would be correct. When she's a kid, Jason is already in the lake.
I mean, are we talking now we're in the year 2000 or in the time? I mean,
soon. I have... Yeah, I actually have my little timeline, and this is from a bunch of sources plus stuff I've randomly figured out. Again, not canonical. I have that this movie would take place like, Tina fighting Jason, like not with little kid Tina. I have this taking place in about 2003.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, Tommy goes from being little Corey Feldman to 35-year-old, what's his name?
Tom Matthews.
Well, Tom Matthews is the second guy. It was like John Shepard was the first one. Oh, by the way, we didn't.
The one in part 5, yeah.
Mention this. That Tommy Jarvis seemed remarkably fine after all his years of being in a psycho ward in the 6th movie. He's no longer catatonic. I guess the therapy's working.
I forgot to mention this. I like to imagine. Again, this is just weird headcanon of mine. I like to imagine he was also entirely traumatized by Roy, and that before he went and dug up Jason's body, he went and already did that to Roy.
Like, he already killed corpses Roy's body. All over the place.
Just all over the place. Anybody who bothered him when he was younger, he already burned Roy's body. Now he's going to get Jason.
He's misunderstood.
Also, part of the math I used to figure this out is we see when Tina was a little girl, it was October 13th, Friday the 13th, which I fucking looked at calendars for this movie, which would have been 1995. There was an October 13th, Friday the 13th, which then, if this is 2003, puts her aging at about 8 years from that little girl to where she is here. Again, that's sensible.
You're putting more effort in this than the filmmakers, right?
I am. I'm putting way too much effort into these movies than any of the people involved in these movies did, but it makes me happy.
Oh, yeah.
I have to fill content for a website. I got to do this shit.
Now, this is also notable because this is the first appearance of Kane Hodder as Jason. He did it for 4 movies.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I appreciate his performances, but they're some of the worst movies. In my opinion.
Yeah.
In your opinion, yeah, out of the 4 in a row that he did, I have 2 of them ranked really highly and 2 ranked real low. And this is obviously one of the ones I rank highly personally, but yeah, I know a lot of people don't like this one. I'm fine with it. I just like the action flick turn it takes at the end.
Thumbs up, thumbs down. Are you watching this?
No way. No way.
No way.
Absolutely no.
Yeah,
as my kid says.
Obviously thumbs up for me.
I mean, if push comes to shove, I would definitely turn this on more than some of the movies we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But it's not one of my pride and joys. No question. No question.
Okay.
Let's move on. Part 8. Jason takes Manhattan. Or we jokingly said Jason takes a slow boat to Vancouver.
Yes.
Jason is accidentally awakened from his watery grave again. And he ends up stalking a ship full of graduating high school students headed to Manhattan, New York. I figured a bus would get you there quicker, but who's to say?
Mm-hmm.
Jump in.
Crystal Lake is somehow connected to the Hudson River or something.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly correct.
All those lakes that connect to the ocean.
Oh, definitely. Going back to the continuity, I like how silly it is that there is enough attention paid to, okay, we left Jason tied with a chain in the bottom of the lake. Okay, now Jason is with a whole wooden dock on top of him. And now he's going to... I like that they pay attention to that continuity, even if they don't pay attention to any of the other continuity. But this is... Definitely, but I can say now this is my worst one. This is bottom for me.
Hey, me too.
Hey, see, we agree with one.
That's right.
But this is dull. The kills aren't there. They're just boring. I mean, I could maybe take out one or two kills. The punch in the boxing guy is fun, and the sauna rocks in the chest.
I was gonna say, I think in the entire franchise, both those kills are like top 10-ish for me.
They're pretty memorable.
Another thing that this is actually the first one that I saw in theaters, and it was even for my teenage self, it was disappointing.
Did you sue the movie theater afterwards?
Is it too late? I mean, what's the statute of limitations?
It sells a premise that it fails to deliver in every way. The ending is it's dull. Okay, he's in Manhattan and it's fun to see him in Times Square and all that, but I mean, then you push him to dark alleys that have no resemblance to New York. And then you read about all the things that the director really wanted to do. He wanted to have him on Statue of Liberty. He wanted to have him here and there. So it's bottom tier for me, definitely.
I don't disagree at all.
I have this near the bottom. It's not my worst one like it is for you guys. This is kind of like the end of the middle for me. This is where the middle becomes the bottom tier for me. It's not particularly good. I appreciate that all these movies you've been in a camp. Like, theoretically, if Jason's after you could just run to civilization. This movie gives you, for as much as it gets crapped on for, like, it's not in Manhattan, it's on a boat. But, like, that creates this nice feeling of claustrophobia. Like, you can't get away from Jason. You know, until everyone does by just getting on the life raft and getting away. But it creates this claustrophobic environment where they're just stuck on this boat with Jason. But aside from that, it's all the silly ineptitude from part 6, except not tongue-in-cheek. Like, it's silly nonsense, but it's not trying to be.
Right.
Yeah.
And just that he gets mutated like a Ninja Turtle at the end is just like,
that
what?
ending is,
That's your conclusion?
There's a lot of questions in this movie.
Like, what happened here?
You got Rennie learning to swim, and there's little baby frog Jason still in the lake. So are we talking 30 years ago? How old are you, Rennie?
Yeah, this movie lost real control of the timeline because it's trying to imply that, like, this movie came out 10 years after the first one, and it's like, oh, it's been 10 years, but if you pay attention to the other movies, it's like, no, it's been like 30 or 20 years. This makes no sense. I use this movie, though, to prove part of my multiple Jasons timeline that we'll get into later because of that, because of the confusion. But yeah, when they were making it, the actual explanation is they just lost control of what they were doing.
I mean, and they did that in part 4 as well, where they just said, well, the movie came out 3 years ago. Yeah, but you've established that it takes place 3 days later. Good grief. So there's also the multiple frog boy theory is what I want to know. Is there a family of tadpoles that live at the bottom of Crystal Lake?
So at the end, when he gets the toxic sludge, which naturally, of course, we all know just goes through the sewers every night at midnight in New York City.
Yeah.
when he gets exposed to this toxic sludge, the ubiquitous sludge, is he melted away and the smaller child is inside of him? Are we led to believe what's happened there? I really don't know.
Toxic sludge took all the carcasses.
It took all the
and
evil out
if
of
you
it.
were planning on like continuing the series, where do you go from there?
A different vat of toxic sludge that puts evil back into him.
An FBI ambush.
I've talked about this before where like if they came out today and said, we're making a new Friday the 13th movie, what do you want it to be? I want it to be a continuation of part 8. I want it to be little kid Jason in New York and you see this little kid become an evil zombie man. Like he starts off in an orphanage and he's like Voldemort, he's like killing other kids.
Because
and
as we found out on the next one, the evil is inside of
That
him.
is true. Goodness gracious.
So my biggest gripe, all 100% of this is what Carlos said. I was sold a bill of goods that I was not delivered upon. And at some point in the past, Campbell's Chicken Soup was required to change their name to Campbell's Soup with Chicken because there was not enough chicken in it to legally be called Chicken Soup. They required them to change their name. I'm starting the petition. We're going to retcon the name of this. It's not Jason Takes Manhattan. It's Jason Ends Up in Manhattan is what it should be called. It's 87 minutes into this 100-minute movie before he steps foot in Manhattan.
Here's my question. Did they take this movie as kind of a parody of Muppets Take Manhattan?
I mean, by the name anyway, but I haven't seen Muppets Take Manhattan long enough to know if there are
they're in a boat
correlations.
for at least 50 minutes of the movie. No, just kidding.
Frog Boy.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, so these are related franchises that I was unaware of.
It's just like name recognition. It's worse than taking like an IP and just making a shitty reboot out of it, because you get Land of the Lost and people are like, I know that name. It's worse than that. You're taking a name from a different property that doesn't even belong to this like the audience that belongs to this property. Yeah. It's a kids movie.
Although, in their defense, Jason looks like a Muppet when he takes his mask off. So who's to say?
Oh God!
Yeah, unmasked Jason is rough in this one.
That's not what the gang members
That's
thought.
not what they thought.
Oh yeah, I forgot. There's gang members forcing heroin on people. Yeah. Isn't heroin expensive? I don't know much about heroin.
Their heroin is so cheap and readily available. They're just giving it to people.
It's like the idea of, check your Halloween candy. People are giving out edibles to children. It's like, no, that's expensive. No one's doing that.
Free samples of heroin. Good times. Help yourself. Yeah. Thumbs up, thumbs down, guys.
Thumbs down.
If I'm in the last 30 minutes of it, I'll watch it. If it's the first part, I'm no way. I'm destroying my TV.
How dare you show me this?
I can't have a TV that would ever show this.
TV, I thought you loved me, TV. You betrayed me.
He goes up to his TV and says, you failed me for the last time.
Knife in the brain.
In spite of it all, I'd probably still watch it. But you're right. It's like you said, it's not dead last for me, but we're picking up steam. Because, and this is the thing, after the final chapter, each successive movie made less money. And that's why they went on hiatus after this one. They're just like, F it, we're done with this. No, they're not. Next, 1993. Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. Spoiler alert, not the final Friday.
Spoiler alert, he barely makes it to hell. I have the same complaint with this one. They finally get to hell in the last 12 seconds of the movie.
The Jason we know is in a grand total of 5 minutes of this movie. Yeah. IMDb describes this as serial killer Jason Voorhees' supernatural origins are revealed. Interesting. Good times.
I'll start off here. Okay. You guys gave it to part 8. This is my worst one in the franchise. This is the one that, like, if it's on, I'm going to be like, great. I'm going to watch the first 5 minutes. And that's it. Then I'm bailing. Because after the first after the first 5 minutes, this movie has nothing to offer.
It's the only reason why I put it above, because it's bottom tier for me. But the only reason why I put it above others is because it's so crazy. It's so bonkers. They just went way out there to try to make this nonsensical story, nonsensical background story that makes no absolute sense with anything that we've seen so far. And I gotta give them props for that. I mean, it's definitely crazy, but you don't have enough Jason. We all want to see Jason, so you don't get that. You get random people killing each other. Even
Jason's
though
actually a large evil worm.
That's correct.
yeah, which
As we all know.
it's
I think in our hearts we knew it all along.
it's silly, it's stupid, but like I said, it's crazy. It's bonkers. That's the only reason why I put it above
This
the
was the
others.
first
Yeah.
Friday the 13th movie I saw in the theaters. Okay, so this is.
Oh, okay.
I had not seen the other ones. I think I had seen the other ones like on TNT or whatever. You know what I mean? They'd have those marathons or whatever. So this is the first one I saw, and at the time, I loved it. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
I was laughing and laughing. It is so great because it is so ridiculous. There's the shootout in the diner where some of the waitress pulls out a double-barreled shotgun. It was just like, whoa, what is happening? It is. I thought it was hilarious. Now, as my palate has matured, if you will, I find it as a total affront because it's not a Friday the 13th movie at all.
Yeah.
In a very legally and binding sense, it's not a Friday
Right,
the 13th
the first movie that doesn't say Friday the 13th. They got because now it's I think it's New Line at this point. So they have the rights to Jason, but do not have the right to the name Friday the 13th. So interesting.
This is number 8 out of 12 for me.
Ooh.
So it's near the bottom, but still kind of high. And I think if I were to rewatch it, I might go up more because I really do like the big swings that the story takes. Making Jason a transmissible like disease and then ultimately a demon weasel was like I was like, what the fuck? All right, cool. I'm on board. If I were to improve on it, it would be better, more violent kills, more fun kills. But this is one that I also watched on Tubi, and I got the censored version.
It's much more violent, the non-theatrical version. Because I think spoiler alert, I own all these movies streaming, and I had only seen the theatrical version. If you go from the theatrical to the non-theatrical, the sex is longer in the tent. It's like it's like Red Shoe Diaries. I'm like, what's happening? And the kills are like much more violent. Like they really show you some things that you're like, I'm not sure I wanted to see that. Interestingly enough, on our podcast, we did this science fiction movie called The Hidden that came out in the late 80s, which deals with an alien that comes out of their mouths and jumps from body to body that way. This movie is basically a ripoff of that movie. It's that same kind of thing. Again, Jason's in 5 minutes of this movie. And when, spoiler alert, he is reborn, why isn't he like healthy, fresh? Instead, he's still all chewed up and jacked up.
His mask is still broken. Why does he even have the mask?
Same dirty jumpsuit.
Makes no sense.
He doesn't want to reveal his identity.
And he never takes off the mask.
They might not know it's me.
You never see his face. So that's kind of a new change as well. Who knows what's going on in this movie?
I have so many notes on this movie. The first one is what we've needed for 9 movies at this point was definitely a homoerotic scene where Jason shaves
his legs
another
are in
man.
Stirrups. What else is he shaving?
My second note is on Crystal Lake Memories. God bless him. The director for this movie tries to defend it so hard. He's like, this is what I was going for. This is what I was doing. He's passionate about what he made here. And like I said, for me, this is the worst of the franchise, but I listened to this director and it's like, man, go with God. You really thought you were doing something on this movie. And my third note, I love this movie because it became part of a debate on a comic book board I had a long time ago where it was, does this movie prove that if Jason was lost in the woods in like Alaska or something, and a Kodiak bear came along and ate Jason, would we have Kodiak bear Jason? How terrifying is that?
Cocaine bear?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Kodiak bear Jason versus cocaine bear.
Okay, there we go. Now we're talking money making properties.
This is the cinematic universe we all need.
Another thing to talk about is this is the reappearance of famed character actress Erin Gray from my childhood. She was on Silver Spoons, she was in Buck Rogers, and then seemed to disappear until she reappeared in this movie, of all things. Good grief. Crazy. She plays Jason's never before mentioned sister, who was probably killed by a fireplace poker.
Oh, interesting.
So very upsetting. She's got to pay the bills too. I can't blame her.
That first 5 minutes, though, you're right. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Are you serious? Okay, yeah, this is cool. This is a really interesting twist, and it didn't continue the momentum. It continued the momentum of like big swings, and probably half of them were like
and we got to
misses.
talk about Creighton Duke.
Yeah, he's giving his all in this movie. Like, he is the one person in this movie that feels like, you know what, I'm gonna try
Absolutely.
my damnedest.
I see a little girl in a pink dress pushing a hot dog through a donut. What? Was that an ad lib? I hope it was.
And I like that for no reason. He's like, you want information on Jason? I gotta break some of your fingers. That's how this works.
There's no other reason.
Is that approving your medal? You know, that sort of thing. Is that what it is? I got to prove that you really want this or something. I don't know.
We also got to talk about there's a very loose connection between this movie and Friday the 13th, the series. That was big. Well, wasn't big, but it was on TV in the late 80s. Did anybody watch the series, Friday the 13th, the series?
No, I heard Jason wasn't in it, and
not
I never
in
cared.
It's a ragtag gang who are hunting down cursed artifacts. The connection is the fact that the actor, Steven, in this movie was from Friday the 13th, the series. So there you go. Mark that down. It's important information.
Cool. I'm logging that away. I will use that one day, maybe on Jeopardy.
Okay, guys. I think I have a feeling where this is going, but thumbs up, thumbs down.
First 5 minutes, I'm watching. After that, no.
Thumbs up. Like I said, it's close to the bottom for me, but like I said, I appreciate its craziness, its bunkerness. So maybe thumbs up just to laugh at it.
Yeah, thumbs way down for me. Sorry, director of this movie. I know you love it.
Well, the original producer from the first movie came back and produced this. What the hell was he thinking? I'm a thumbs up. I'm still in. Once I think I'm out, they pull me back in.
I appreciate your
it's
commitment.
starting to. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, moving on down the road. Next, 2001's Jason X. This after a brief hiatus, we're back on the map. And again, notice not Friday the 13th, Jason X. Jason Voorhees is cryogenically frozen at the beginning of the 21st century and is discovered in the 25th century and taken to space. He gets thawed and begins stalking and killing the crew of the spaceship that's transporting him.
I love it. I love it so much. He's able to kill someone while he's still cryogenically frozen. His arm comes down and slices someone's arm off. I'm like, yeah,
one of the top kills.
That's it.
One of the best.
That's an alpha right there. Yeah. It's Space Jason's probably my favorite version of him. I like his weird
Uber Jason.
Pulsing head that you can see squeezing through the metal clasps. So I probably could use more of him. That might have cranked my ranking up. But this is third from the top for me. Fun story. They took it in a weird direction, and the camp level was just right. I like the hologram room where they have the two girls asking to smoke marijuana with him and have premarital sex. And then he throw back to the earlier kill in the franchise when he's smashing him against the tree with the sleeping bag. Oh, it's so great. And my favorite kill of the entire franchise is the frozen head smash.
Yeah, that's definitely a top kill.
It's wonderful.
It's closer to the top for me. It has not as the camp is not as effective as maybe part 6. But like I said, where Jason Goes to Hell, it's crazy. The premise is crazy, but it works a lot better than Jason Goes to Hell. So I appreciate that. I think it's fun. there's a guy that gets stabbed in the chest. I think you're not gonna kill me, and that'll do it. Okay. I mean, they totally know what they're into right now. So I appreciate that. I like the premise. You got David Cronenberg in
Yes.
the opening,
Yeah.
which is
So
a
weird.
great cameo. I enjoy it. This is one of the funnier ones for me.
Yeah, I mentioned that part 6 is like a shade beneath being a horror comedy. This movie's a horror comedy,
Yeah.
100%. This is the second movie where they were just like, yeah, we're making a 10th movie in a horror franchise. We know how awful and stupid we are for doing this. I love it. I love this movie so much. I think this is one of the best ones. You talked about the, yeah, that'll do it line. The other great line in this movie is, hey guys, he just wanted his machete back. I love that so much. Or the, can't you just beam us off? I think this one is so much fun. I love Uber Jason at the end. It's such a creative turn that they took. And yeah, the hologram room, and he's smacking one girl to death in a sleeping bag with another girl to death in a sleeping bag.
I love it.
I think this one's great. I had friends who had never seen a Friday the 13th movie, and the odd trilogy I made them watch was 2, 3, and this.
That's an odd trilogy.
Oh, wow.
No question.
But I'm a big fan of this one. I think it's hilarious. I think this one is just one of the funniest horror
It's
comedies
much
ever
better
made.
than you think it would be. That's the crazy thing about it. I think I had seen it once like 100 years ago, and I finally went back, and granted, very Canadian. The look is like it's a sci-fi channel exclusive, right? Right.
Yeah, it's like Firefly or
something like
something.
that. But there is a lot to appreciate about this movie. Like you said, the girl getting her face frozen with dry ice and then just smashed on the thing. Dynamite.
Love
There's
it. That one shot of the explosion when you see the dried blood inside, you're like, wow, they really took a lot of care with that shot.
No question. There's the weird robot woman who has breasts but no nipples. I don't know what that was.
That's a very specific fantasy, okay? that some people maybe in this chat have, okay?
Hey, no judgment.
Let's not judge.
No judgment. This is a no judgment zone. Like I said, I like part 5. Some people like no nipples. Whatever floats your boat.
I like that the android lady gets powered up by having sex.
He said, I uploaded her. What the hell does that mean? Do I want to know?
You know exactly what it means.
Oh,
you know exactly what it means.
Right. Any other thoughts about Jason X?
No, I think is he actually called Uber Jason? Is that the correct term?
Yeah, that's like the fan accepted term for him. Yeah.
Okay, I always called him Space Jason, but the whole idea there's a rule in improv comedy that you need to one up the next person and the next iteration. Yes, and in like sketch comedy world, it's always, well, what's the next thing? How can we get bigger? How can we get bigger? And ultimately, you end up in space. That's the kind of the joke. And if you don't end up in space, you've gone just far enough. Once you end up in space, it's ridiculous. So when they finally did Jason X and it's Jason in space, I'm like, they have to know what this is. They have to know. And I watched it and I was like, this is just
there were
great.
a bunch of horror movies at the time where they took the character to space for some reason. There's Leprechaun in space.
Leprechaun, I think, was
which
the
is
first
not
one,
a good movie.
The original screenplay for Halloween 6 was supposed to be in space.
There was Critters, although the Critters actually come from space, but I think they embraced that space theme on some of the sequels.
Wild. Where did they come up with this stuff? Good time.
My last Jason X comment before, if we're going to move on here, if anybody else has anything to say, my last one is there are a lot of reasons to watch slasher horror movies. And to that end, I will say Jason X has the hottest cast of any of the Jason movies, in my opinion. The girls in this movie are just so easy on the eyes.
Interesting.
Yeah. It is a fantastic looking cast.
Okay. I'm gonna have to ponder this one.
And the weird teacher getting his nipples twisted with salad tongs.
Salad tongs, as one does.
This one does.
Okay, guys, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Thumbs
Yes.
up.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thumbs up.
Everyone should watch this
Drop
movie.
what you're doing. Rush home and watch Jason X.
Do it.
Move.
Turn off your Banshees of Inisherin you're watching for the Oscars. It's time for Jason X.
The poor Banshees. I called it the Banshees of Ed Sheeran because I didn't.
Yeah.
Good time. Next, we've got the immortal classic Freddy versus Jason from 2003. IMDb describes this as Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees return to terrorize the teenagers of Elm Street. Only this time, they're out to get each other too. This time? Okay. What do you got?
This just feels more like a
Absolutely.
Freddy movie than a Jason movie.
Yeah.
And I don't really know anything about the Nightmare on Elm Street series either. I've only seen one of them, and I think it was the one in the asylum where he makes the marionette out of the guy's attendants.
Well, you saw arguably the best.
Arguably the
That's
best one.
fine.
Yeah.
That was the best one.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh
I
no.
told myself I'd watch the whole series this year. I don't know. Oof, okay.
Get ready.
So the camp and like the cheesy and the tongue in cheek stuff it's all really, really pretty. It's pretty obvious they're wearing it on their sleeves. As a Freddy movie goes, or as a Jason movie goes, this is number 4 out of 12 for me. Really high. Liked it a lot. Lots of fun. The creative kills were pretty cool, and there was one scene where Jason's on fire walking through the cornfield.
Yeah,
probably my favorite shot of the whole series, the whole franchise. Seeing him that top down, and then just the menacing look of this flaming monstrosity walking towards you with a machete. You're like, oh shit, that's terrifying. I might have nightmares about that later. But my only criticism is that in a movie called Freddy versus Jason, I want to see more of them fighting. But I'm probably just spoiled by Godzilla versus Kong because we had no idea how good we had it with Godzilla versus Kong. Yeah,
that's funny because I was going to say what I like about this movie is it's called Freddy versus Jason, and it gives you multiple confrontations between Freddy and Jason.
Yeah,
so I mean, it does
I got
exactly.
enough.
You're right. Like Godzilla versus Kong gives you more. Don't get me wrong. But like compare this to Batman versus Superman. This is far better.
Yes.
Like you have a lot of Jason versus Freddy compared to Batman versus Superman.
Hang on a second.
So,
this is far better than Batman versus Superman. I think we can all agree.
Yeah.
Just in general.
Yeah. I think that's. But it's top 5 for me. It's Freddy fighting Jason. We had wanted this for almost 20 years by the time this had happened, and it delivered. It did exactly what it said on the tin that it was going to do, and I can't fault anything it does because it promised something and it delivered.
It's mid-tier, but kind of high mid-tier for me. This is one I rewatched recently. I saw it like 2 or 3 days ago. It feels more like a Nightmare on Elm Street film. It feels maybe a bit too shiny for a Friday the 13th film. But it's fun. It's fun, and you get, like I said, 2 main confrontations between Freddy versus Jason. One in the boiler room for Freddy, and then the last one in Crystal Lake, and they're both fun. I like how they play with the ways that we're gonna tie this franchise. It's crazy. It makes no sense, but you can see the writers wheels cranking. Oh, how are we gonna do it? Kind of like they did with Alien versus Predator. How are we gonna tie these things? It's gotta be fun beyond that writers' room to figure out how they come out with this. But I like it.
You know, you mentioned Alien versus Predator. I watched that earlier this year, and I paused the movie to see. It is the 55-minute mark in Alien versus Predator before an alien ever versus a predator. And that's the problem. Yeah. Like, this movie doesn't wait that long to get Freddy and Jason together. Alien versus Predator thinks you care about this other shit, and you don't.
This is one of my least favorite. Boom. And I'll tell you why. It's very simple for me. This is a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And I just don't like that series nearly as much. I don't, for a variety of reasons, which we may talk about later. It's too much. It's too much Freddy Krueger. Now, look, it's hard to kind of marry these characters because you have Freddy Krueger who's just in your dreams, and then you have Jason who's at camp. I don't know. I mean, how do you get you have to put Jason in the dream or get Freddy in the real world? It's strange. I thought I didn't like Jason that much in this movie either. The guy who played him, he looked more like Frankenstein, frankly, because he was so tall and kind of gangly, kind of walking around. And not my cup of tea.
You know the story behind that?
I know there was scandal because Kane Hodder wanted to come back, but they wanted somebody much taller.
Yeah.
Like
they wanted somebody who would tower over Freddy, so they told Kane no.
Yeah, but Ken Kirsinger is just like a bit not much taller than Kane
he's
Hodder.
like 3 inches.
I don't know.
I think Kane Hodder's like 6'2".
Okay.
Ken
Okay.
Kirsinger
Maybe.
is like 6'5", something like that.
And as my wife tells me, 3 inches makes a big difference.
How do we move away from that? How do we move forward now?
And Jason is like ridiculously strong in this one. Like he throws some dude in the cornfield, like into orbit. What's happening?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned, and it's really hard to pair these two characters, but also for the reasons that you said, but also in terms of performance, because you have Freddy, who has been played by Robert Englund for all time, and he's a wisecrack, and he's they played him to be a wisecrack, and then you have you have Jason, who basically doesn't talk.
Right.
So how do you? That's obviously why you're gonna get or feel a bit more Freddy than you're gonna feel a bit more Jason. That's what she said also.
Well, it's also why you couldn't do
but I
Jason
think
versus Michael, because it would just be two dudes exactly the same,
staring at each other.
Yeah, wearing a white mask, not talking to each other.
Yeah.
That's funny. I would love to see the subtitles on that movie. Stares menacingly,
grunting.
Yeah, or even better, there is no talking in the movie, but the subtitles have a ton of text. They're like telepathically communicating with each other.
It's all the subtext.
I might be down for that. Actually.
Yeah,
now you mentioned it.
Telepath behind you.
Any last thoughts?
Last thoughts
super fun.
Last thoughts are good movie. The worst takeaway I can get from this movie is that they were supposed to make a sequel where it was going to be Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, and it never got made. And God, how amazing would that have been?
Ash.
It was supposed to confirm that Jason was a Deadite, and Pamela Voorhees used the Necronomicon to bring her son back, and that's why Jason is whatever. But they did end up releasing it in comic book form, Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, and the comic is terrible.
Oh, no.
But that's because the writer just couldn't write Freddy or Ash well, so they're trying to deliver one-line jokes, but they're not funny. So, like, if you took that same story and put Robert Englund and Bruce Campbell in it, it would work.
Well, and Jason Goes to Hell, you see the Necronomicon in the Voorhees mansion that we've never seen before.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
The actual Sam Raimi's actual Necronomicon, too.
No shit. That's cool.
Thumbs up, thumbs down. I think I have a feeling how this is going to go.
Yeah, I'd watch it. I'd watch it if I saw it again.
Yeah.
Very fun.
Thumbs up.
I think I'm going to take a pass on this one. Oh!
Wow.
I mean, let's be honest, I'd probably watch it too, but push comes to shove, not my favorite. Not my favorite. Moving on. The remake / sequel / reimagining from 2009, Friday the 13th, which again, it's notable because it was all, they finally have it all under one roof again. We can now call it Friday the 13th once again. And of course, there it is. Boom. We're a well-run organization here. Like a well-oiled machine.
Sure.
Boom, boom, boom. IMDb calls it. A group of young adults visit a boarded-up campsite named Crystal Lake, where they soon encounter the mysterious Jason Voorhees and his deadly intentions.
Okay, I want to jump on this one first because I might have to leave soon, and this is one of my favorites. I really, really, really like this one. I have it top tier. I like how Jason is more vicious. The Jason we see here is more brutal, more vicious than what we had seen before. I like the characters. Most of the characters are likable. I like the performance of Derek Mears, who plays the Jason. He has an imposing presence that we need for this. I like the kills. The kills are gory. There's one that's very disturbing for me. That's the guy that gets the screwdriver from the shin. Yeah, that it because they take so much time to get it. You think, oh yeah, and then it makes me icky. Um, so I really enjoyed. My main issues with this is that they try to cram too much in the film. That they try to cram like 4 films, for Friday the 13th worth films into one. And you get that early prologue, that's Friday the 13th 1. Then you get the first 30 minutes, I think that's Friday the 13th 2. And then the rest is kind of part 3 and part 4 mixed together with a bit of 5 also in there.
It's like Force Awakens, it's kind of shove as much crap as they can in there.
Yeah. but I like it. I like it. It's one of my favorites easily.
Yeah, it's top tier for me as well. This is my 5th out of 12, and I give it 3 stars. And it feels kind of like the Jessica Biel version of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like that modernized reimagining of a classic property. But it like, I don't know, it takes a more grounded approach, like with the audiences, with the modern audiences, and the older ones, like all these Jason movies we've talked about up to this point, we mentioned specifically, you don't particularly feel scared about it. It's not something that's striking fear into your hearts. But with this character, I could put myself in that scenario and be like, oh my God, maybe that would be terrible to the situation to be in. It feels more true to life and less campy. Plus, it's got a great cold open to whet your appetite. Plenty of TNA, as is tradition, and some gnarly kills, which really work great. So, I mean, it's nothing groundbreaking ultimately, but it's just a really well done version of this movie put into the modern age, and I appreciated it quite a bit. I liked it.
Oh man, well, here I come, I guess. This is there are 12 Friday the 13th movies. I have this 11th. I think this one's terrible. I think this one's terrible. Terrible. You know how you guys said one of your problems with Freddy versus Jason was it's not a Jason movie, it's a Freddy movie? My biggest problem with this movie is it's not a Jason movie, it's a The Hills Have Eyes movie. Like nothing about this character says Jason other than that he's wearing a hockey mask. He runs around, suddenly he's f***ing Hawkeye with a bow and arrow. And he's just an angry hillbilly dude in the woods, and nothing about this says like this is part of the Jason franchise to me. Like if this was a standalone movie and this movie was called like Thursday the 12th, I'd be like, yeah, this is a fine standalone by itself horror movie. But if you're telling me this is a Jason movie, it doesn't work for me on any level. This isn't Jason. Why?
That's a very respectable way to approach it too, because I have no love for the series. I have no like adoration. So if you are this clearly expert on the series, as Stu is, you're going to look at this and go, this is an affront to me. It's offensive that you told me this is a Friday the 13th. It's like it's like trying to feed somebody turkey bacon and saying, here, have some bacon. And they take a bite and they're like, what is this?
It's not the same.
This is not bacon. Turkey bacon's fine on itself, but if you try to present it to me as bacon, I will be angry.
True. No, and I agree. It's I like the Jason movies because they're unrealistic. You know what I mean? It's like it's not in a way that I don't like Nightmare on Elm Street movies. They're like too disturbing in a way. You know what I mean? Even though Jason's killing people by the bushel, oftentimes not that bloody. Not that, in spite of it all, not that violent. He's a character that's slow moving. The guy in this movie, like you said, it's kind of like a Hills Have Eyes. It's like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's a dude running you down, swinging his machete like he's Barry Bonds or somebody, right? I mean, he's coming at you hard. There's that scene where the poor dude gets nailed in the back with a hatchet and is screaming, help me, help, for like, I swear to God, half an hour. While people are going like, should we go get him? I don't know. Don't do it. Don't open that door. it's a different movie. And of course, it's filtered through the Michael Bay prism, which means a lot of TNA. There is topless wakeboarding.
There are stupendous tits in this
Dynamite.
movie.
The sex scene played for laughs. Again, it takes
forever.
They're going at it longer than humanly possible, some would argue. Not me, I don't know. Somebody would say.
I want to say the one thing I love about this movie, and I got into such a fight whenever we talked about it previously, the Trent character. I love him. He's the protagonist of this movie to me because everybody's an asshole to him repeatedly. His friends come over, they break his shit, they steal his shit. He invited them into his house. He's at the gas station. Sam Winchester's a dick to him, so of course he's a dick back.
On. Sam Winchester is putting up flyers for his missing sister, and Trent's like, "Are you finished, big guy? I got some beer to buy. Come on, wrap it up."
And after Sam Winchester's a dick to him, Sam Winchester comes and steals his girlfriend. No, I am Team Trent. Team Trent. Trent should have survived this movie. He was the hero. And I love same actor, Travis Van Winkle, plays Trent with the same full name as his character from the Transformers movies. So that proves Jason exists within the Transformers universe.
That is true. It's canon.
I was waiting for Optimus Prime to pop out.
That would have been a different movie. No question. And what's up?
Jason versus Transformers.
What's up with the weed? Is Jason trying to entice people to come? Because it seems like it's a trap, right? Or am I crazy? It's just spontaneous coincidence.
I assumed it was a coincidence, but again, this isn't really Jason, so maybe he's just a dude growing weed for his own amusement. I don't know.
Amusement, exactly. I can't blame him. He's out in the woods by himself doing his thing.
He misses his mom. He needs to forget.
What do you think the holes in the hockey mask are for? Do we?
It's an advanced bong. Yeah.
Now, one thing I will say about this movie, spoiler alert, is the death that occurs later in the shocking death, in my opinion, with the girl he meets up with, who's like who ditches Trent and runs off with him to track down his missing sister. The way she
gets what she deserves for leaving Trent.
You're Team Trent all the way, I guess.
I am. Trent's the best.
Trent's a hardcore asshole. He's stone cold deserved all that shit. His friends are shitty to him because he's a shitty person. He's
like one of those ridiculous assholes that you won't meet in nature. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, I'm just gonna be a dick to everybody, even my friends, for no reason, constantly.
Yeah. Even this guy who's searching for his missing sister, literally just putting a flyer up. He's like, "Hey, buddy, what's your problem?" My blood relation is
everything
missing.
Okay? No, my sister could be dead.
I know. I took time off work to hang these flyers up, and you're griefing me, bro? Come on.
I had to leave Dean alone. Who knows what he's facing?
Okay, guys, any last thoughts on this one?
Nah, fun. Loved it. Well, I want another
thumbs
one.
Up, thumbs down.
Yes.
Thumbs up for me.
Thumbs down, but like I said, I'm going to watch any of them, so I'd watch it
so
again. I kind of want to watch it again because you guys have me convinced I'm remembering it wrong, because I swear to God that Sam is a dick to Trent before Trent is a dick to him.
I think he's maybe white knighting a little bit with the girl. Like he kind of steps in maybe when he shouldn't have said something, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah. Trent's being a jerk to his girlfriend or someone else, and he's like, "Hey, buddy, we're all friends here." And then he turns around and is like, "Not on my watch."
It's possible. It's possible. Okay, moving on. Do you want to give us your crazy theory before we move on?
Okay, I will give the incredibly as abbreviated as possible theory that I have here. So, in the first Friday the 13th, Pamela Voorhees is not the killer. The killer is Sackhead Jason from Part 2. And my reasoning behind that is Sackhead Jason is not Jason Voorhees. He is not the boy that drowned in a lake. He's just like this IDD kind of low-level intelligence guy that Pamela brings along to be her minion, because he's clearly a very capable killer, and when you see Pamela at the end, she is not. Mm-hmm. And the other bigger thing is, like, when she goes to kill Alice, she can't stop soliloquying about why she's doing what she's doing and talking to herself, but this other killer is completely silent. So what I think happens is Pamela dies, This guy goes off into the wood with her head because, like I said, he's IDD, he's got problems, he's worshiping her head, has a sack over his head because he's an ugly, deformed guy who doesn't talk. He's the killer in part 2. Somehow he and Paul kill each other. You get into part 3, you get this other character, also not Jason Voorhees, the boy who drowned in the lake, just another serial killer in the Camp Crystal Lake version who 2 years ago, when he was still bald and didn't have an ear, tried to rape Chris. Then you get him for movies 3 and 4. He's the killer. Tommy Jarvis kills him definitively in part 4. In part 6, you've got a mentally disturbed Tommy Jarvis who goes and finds a tombstone for Jason Voorhees. Nobody's making a tombstone for that guy from part 3 and 4. So Tommy Jarvis just goes to some random tombstone for somebody named Jason Voorhees and digs him up. He brings that body back to life. That's zombie Jason. And that timeline ends with him being mutated into a boy in part 8. Oh, and the other thing part 8 proves that what Alice saw at the end of part 1 was not a dream. The ghost of the Jason Voorhees boy still lives in the lake. It attacked Alice and it attacked Remy throughout her life. Then everything after part 8 are movies that take place within the Friday the 13th universe.
The Elseworlds.
So yes, Jason Goes to Hell is a movie that Tommy Jarvis could have gone and watched, because after all this came out and he was mutated, they made a movie about what they thought the Jason Voorhees character was, and that's why they created all this stupid mythology with a knife and everything.
So it's the Lightyear / Toy Story universe.
Yes.
Okay.
You've got one exists within the other.
What's
That's
wild
right.
is this is the only theory that makes any sense at all, because
it
does.
It all tracks.
Yeah.
It's very coincidental.
If you go to my website, I have an article that's like 3,500 words that gets
it.
into a lot more depth than I just did. But I have an article, The Multiple Jasons Theory, at swoproductions.com that spells this out all in much more depth.
Because otherwise, why? Okay, if Jason didn't die in 58, then where the hell has he been for the last 20 years? Just hanging out in the woods? I could have gone home with mom. Nah, I'm staying in the woods.
Just decided against it. No, he's dead. His ghost haunts the lake, man. That's it. That's all Jason Voorhees you get.
Okay, I'm on board with it.
Yeah, I love it. I really love to puzzle out that kind of stuff. But sadly, I'm going to have to bow down for my commitment.
Do you want to give us your rankings real quick? Let's do it.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I more or less shared it already, but favorite one is part 2. Second one, part 6. The remake, I have at 3. Final chapter at 4. And Jason X
Beautiful.
at 5.
And what's your bottom one?
Takes Manhattan. Awful.
Yeah.
Totally awful.
Don't watch that.
So, I would have loved to dive into the comparison with Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween, but that's going to be for another day. So, Kev, thanks for having me,
brother.
and hope you continue.
Have a
having
good
fun.
one, man. Good to see you.
Good talking to you, Carlo.
See you,
Take
buddy.
care.
Thank you, Carlo, for joining us and sharing your top 5. Why don't we go around? We'll just do it that way as well. Pete, why don't you share your top 5 as well?
Sure. Okay, so let's get to my list here. Number 1 for me is Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. So fun. Actual kids at the summer camp. Love it. Number 2 is Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Got Crispin Glover in there, which is great. I got number 3 is Jason X. So fun. Number 4, Freddy versus Jason. And number 5 is Friday the 13th, the remake. And my bottom mirrors Carlos. It is Jason Takes Manhattan, but it could be tied with A New Beginning. They're both pretty much duds
Stu,
for
what
me.
you got?
My number 1 is Friday the 13th, part 2. My number 2 is Friday the 13th, part 6, Jason Lives. My number 3 is a tie. It depends on the day that you ask me. It's either going to be Friday the 13th, part 7, where he fights Tina, or Jason X. And then my number 5 would be Freddy versus Jason. And my bottom one, as I mentioned, Jason Goes to Hell.
The fun thing about this is that you can watch these movies and have an entirely different order and appreciate it. You know what I mean? And that's what's cool about it. Everything it's really a reflection on what kind of deviant you are, I guess is what I'm trying to say. My top 5 in descending order. Number 5, part 3. It's got the crazy bikers. It's unmotivated yo-yo action. There's Shelley. Can't go wrong.
Shelley. Shelley. Yeah.
No
Great Shelley
question.
kill, by the way.
Number 4 is part 2. There's something, the character motivation, I appreciate the relationships. Homie going down the stairs with a machete in his forehead. Dynamite. I keep saying part. Number 3 is part 6. Hilarious. I almost think you could sit down with your family and watch part 6. Almost.
fun for the whole family.
Your grandma,
Invite
your
the local
pastor,
rabbi.
everybody.
Everybody can come on down and check it out because it's not that bloody. It's not that violent. It's kind of fun. It's fun and funny, not just, for me. Number 2 on my list. Controversially, part 5, baby.
Yeah.
Now, again, I said it kind of, staggers towards the end. But from the moment we meet Joey and that bang of weirdos, it is comedy. The hillbillies, the strange drifter, the nymphomaniac couple who can't keep their hands off each other, constantly getting at it. There's Robin, who, first of all, the stuttering guy whose name I can't remember, says, "Hey, we're hanging out. Not we should go get coffee sometime, but I'd love to make love with you right now. We just watched a class." Maybe, build up to it, big guy. Now, her issue may just be, I laugh inappropriately. I'm going to laugh in this dude's face. And that's my disability. That's why I'm here at the camp. Good times. And number 1, it may be the final chapter, but it's number 1 in my heart, is the final chapter. You got Crispin Glover. You have the Doublemint twins, who we barely spoke of. We get the murder in the lake at 30 degrees outside in the middle of the night, naked as can be, as one does. Dude takes a harpoon. Why is there a harpoon there? I can't explain it. Spear gun right to the crotch. It's classic. It's classic all the way through. It is chef's kiss. My bottom one, and this is another controversial view. If I had to launch one movie into the sun, it is Freddy versus Jason.
Wow.
I'm just...
poor Freddy versus Jason.
It's just not my cup of tea. It's that thing where it's too much Freddy for me. And frankly, I didn't even like it when they fought. I found it weird when they were fighting, because one dude's like I said, Frankenstein kind of fire bad, while Freddy's doing some kind of Tai Chi. I don't know what was happening. It was very strange.
Martial arts Freddy.
Now, we were going to have our friend Ed from the Film Effect podcast come out. He was unable to join us, but he sent us a fancy blurb, which I'm going to share right now. Ed, take it away.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Ed from the Film Effect Podcast. Sorry I couldn't be there today for the conversation, but I'm a huge Friday the 13th fan, so I at least wanted to be included in this discussion in some fashion. So shout out to Kevin. Thanks for allowing me to record this for you to include. Hope the conversation's going well. I won't take up too much of your time. The way I'm going to do my Friday rankings is 5, 4, 3, 2, worst, and then first. Kicking it off, number 5 for me, Jason Goes to Hell. Now, this is a very bruised film. It's taken a beating over all these years. This year happens to be the 30th anniversary. For me, it just feels like a Friday film, and a lot of that happens to be due to Harry Manfredini's score. He wasn't around for part 8, and his presence is heavily missed in that movie. And rewatching this movie in particular about a month ago, I just realized more and more throughout the movie how much his music just makes the film feel like a Friday film, because you're used to hearing that score, and this one he uses elements of the original film, but then he does his own little spin to it, and overall I really dig it. It really helps make the film still feel like a Friday film, even though Jason's only in it for 10 minutes. Other than that, the kills are great, especially the unrated cut. This is actually the first Friday film that I saw in theaters. It happened to come out the week of my birthday back in '93, and my cousin took me to see it. Just turned 9, but I was a huge Friday fan. I've been pretty much all my life. So maybe my reasoning for this is a little biased, but whatever. Nobody's perfect. I've accepted that for many people, this is the worst film. It's probably going to be on a lot of people's list for this discussion, but not me. It's middle tier. Actually, not to plug my show too much, but I just wanted to say that I've been having conversations back and forth for the better part of 6-7 months now with the director of this film, Adam Marcus, and he's going to be on our episode of this movie later on this year to coincide with said anniversary. So looking forward to that. Anyway, on to number 4, Friday the 13th Part 3. Number 1, Richard Brooker. I mean, he's a top 3 favorite actor of mine. So I've met him. He was, unfortunately, he's no longer with us. Yeah, he was so nice, so incredibly nice. But I love his portrayal as Jason in this movie. This was the first film. He gets the hockey mask, obviously. So, of course, that's another reason why I love it so much. The kills are great as well in this movie, as they are in all the films on my list today. Yes, including the worst. There's a couple. But yeah, this movie, it's a fun watch. That's another reason why I included this, as high as I did over all the films. I mean, I had 12 to choose from. It's a lot. But yeah, this movie's just a fun watch. So yeah, Steve Miner coming back from part 2. Good stuff. Number 3 for me on my list is Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter. Once again, Ted White, top 3 all-timer. His portrayal as well is just iconic. It's great. Rest in peace, unfortunately. Crispin Glover. I mean, the dance, the hitchhiker flipping off the bird of the sign. It's just, why is this in this movie? I don't know. I love it. Just Pamela Voorhees, just random grave along this road. It's just whatever. Okay. But the movie's got some great kills as well. Like I said, all these movies. But yeah, this is just another fun watch. This is the first film of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy. Tom Savini comes back, does an excellent job with the makeup effects. Jodie Aronson, I still to this day have the biggest crush on her. So yeah, number 2 for me is Friday the 13th, The New Blood, Part 7. So for many, many years, pretty much all my life, up until a few years ago, this was my favorite film of the franchise. More on that in a bit. The reason I love this so much is Jason, Kane Hodder, first film, John Carbickler, the director, but also one of the greatest all-time makeup effects artists. His work on Jason is iconic. The broken mask, the spine shown in the back, the dark, black, muddy look. And then when that mask comes off, holy crap, is it frightening. And, I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of curious to hear this episode, to hear everyone's thoughts on this one, because it's kind of like middle road for a lot of people, although I do know a couple people that have this like one of their, if not the worst of on the rankings, it's down there. But yeah, I just love the whole third act between him and her. Carrie, I know the backstory. I've talked about it on my show before. It was originally presented as Freddy vs. Jason, but that never happened. So they still went along with another character. Carrie, not so Carrie, but it's still fun. It's the third act is just so fun. The worst, Jason Takes Manhattan. Now I know it's a coin flip. Most of the time, it's either Jason Goes to Hell or A New Beginning. It's funny about A New Beginning. Over the years, I've kind of come around to that, to the point where it's not my, least favorite film anymore. But don't get me wrong, it's still a shit film, but it's not the worst. Jason Takes Manhattan takes the cake. Number 8. It's growing up as a kid, this was a fun movie, but growing up, the older I get, it's just not a fun watch anymore. Like, I kind of dread it. The whole finale in the sewers, like, apparently every night at midnight, New York City washes away its toxicity with toxic waste, and it's just what? okay. Apparently they ran out of money, hence the, guy in the sewer, just his death is just a little bit of blood splatter over a shadow. It's a shadow work. It's whatever. But anyway, overall the movie's just, I don't know. I there's a couple of kills, like I said before, like Julius on the rooftop. That I'm kind of a sucker for guitar in the face because it kind of fits the era. But other than that, it's all the thumbs down in the world. And my favorite, Jason Lives, number 6. I mean, Tom McLaughlin and the finale of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy. As I mentioned before, Tom McLaughlin is the director. I love his old school horror references throughout, like Karloff's Market, and there's a sprinkle throughout the movie. But it's that movie. I love again. The older I get, the more and more I appreciate the humor in it. I mean, the cuts from like the caretaker of the cemetery. You think I'm an old fart, and then hard cut to the kids of the camp. Yay! And again, kids. For the first time in the Friday franchise, we finally get kids at the camp. So, that's a different take. And I just love Tom Matthews as Tommy Jarvis. And Jennifer Kilk, another one of my favorite lead heroines, I guess, even though Tommy's the hero of the film. I guess you can call her the heroine. She helps Tommy in the end. So yeah, I just love the movie. And that's all there is to it. So there's my list. Check us out, the Film Effect Podcast, at Film Effect Pod on Twitter, or the Film Effect Podcast on Facebook, the filmeffectpodcast.com, the website, all major podcast platforms. And yeah, thanks again, Kevin, for including me. Over and out.
Ed, you said it all. Compelling and rich. Thank you very much.
I don't know. I feel offended after hearing that, Ed. I can't believe what I just heard. Literally.
So good times. Now I wanted to talk about the Jason franchise versus the Michael franchise versus the Freddy franchise. How do these stack up with you guys? What is your opinion?
So I think I have a little bit more to say than Pete. So yeah, I'll start off here and say, and you and I were talking off the air, Kevin. My thing is, I think when it comes to the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, there's fewer movies than the other two, but there's only 3 good ones, if you ask me. There's the original, there's Dream Warriors, and there's New Nightmare. And everything else is varying degrees of crap. With Halloween, it's the same thing. I think there are 3 good ones. There's the first one, I really like Part 4 and H2O, and I think everything else is varying degrees of crap. I think oddly with the Jason movies, like there's a lot more movies in this franchise I really like. Like I gave you a top 5. I legitimately really love all 5 of those movies. And then you get off into, I don't mind Part 3. I don't mind the original Nightmare on Elm Street movie. So there are still other good ones before you get into the varying degrees of crap for this franchise. So I just think as a franchise top to bottom, Jason is the best franchise. Now, is any Jason movie as good as Halloween from 1978? No. But very few movies are as good as Halloween 1978. But it did the franchise thing better than Halloween did.
Absolutely. Pete, what you got?
So yeah, I am a slashers have never been my thing. Like it was something I just never was exposed to as a child. And if my parents would let me watch whatever I wanted, it would be some like an R-rated comedy rather than a slasher, right? So I didn't dive into that like forbidden pool at a young age. So most of my stuff that I'm seeing are, fresh eyes as an adult, or I'm watching the reboots. Like I've seen the whole David Gordon Green series of Halloween. I've seen the Rob Zombie versions. No. And yeah. And it's like I have my own complex opinions about those because I have almost nothing to hang my hat on from before. And we reviewed Halloween, the original, on my show on Middle Class Film Class, and it was I don't see what all the fuss was about. Yeah, I watched it. I'm like, all right. I mean, yeah, he's standing over there. He's driving a car now. Wow, that's a lot. This guy's in a station wagon. He's driving in a station wagon down the street, just like looking at people. I'm like, this is the dude. Oh, sure. Yeah. He drove the shit out of that car. I'll tell you what. But I do want to rewatch that because I've heard like people are talking about the cinematography and like the setup and all, it's so menacing and this and that. And yeah, I mean, there was some good stuff in there, but like the person swinging out of the closet upside down like a trapeze artist was like, okay, he set that up for something, I guess, to scare someone. It felt like the MacGruber gag where he puts the cup of water on the guy, he spills it on him. You're all wet. It's like it was very, why, just kill, just stab him, So anyways, the Halloween franchise is, I like it. I like the menacing aspect of the character. And I honestly, for all the Halloween movies I've seen versus all of the Friday the 13th movies I've seen, I think I got a lot more positives out of the Halloween series. It's not this though.
Right.
It's two separate things in my mind. Where the Friday the 13th franchise succeeds is when it leans into the campiness and the goofiness of it. It's like, how many times can a guy kill people at a damn summer camp?
Yep.
Right?
Why are people still going to this lake in New Jersey?
Yes. So in the inherent just mythos of the Friday the 13th franchise, you have to accept there's 12 movies. They keep going to this damn summer camp. So
or space.
Yeah. And so that goofiness of it really settles in at a certain point in the series, and that's when it kind of takes off for me. And I'm like, okay, this is good. 6 on or some pretty good stuff. There's some stinkers in there, but near the beginning of that franchise, it's like, ugh. With the Halloween ones, I watched Season of the Witch. Wasn't a fan. I was like, I know. I was hoping for to this okay, well, this is so far. I know that it's so far different than the original Halloween that I was like, okay. I didn't love the first Halloween. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. And so I was looking for something new and different. And I kind of was like, just the mechanics of shooting a laser and turning matter into creepy crawly critters was
science.
Like, give me a Jurassic Park-esque explanation of the technology that kind of makes sense, and I'm on board. As it was, it's like they're mining these weird minerals down in the basement and putting these gigantic microchips into these children's mouths that no one notices.
Okay.
It is Stonehenge, yeah.
Okay. But all that being said, the Halloween franchise is I like Michael Myers better than Jason. I think he's more menacing as a scary person. As far as Freddy goes, it's pure cheese. From everything that I've seen, I've seen a lot of scenes. I haven't seen a lot of the movies, but it's pure cheese, and that's its own separate thing. So I'm the type of person who's like, we can all play and have fun, right? We got 3 separate franchises and 3 separate speeds. I have a feeling that I'm probably going to like the Friday the 13th or the Nightmare on Elm Streets more because I lean towards the cheese and I lean towards the comedy more. And I will report back when I watch the whole franchise because I will.
You know what? You bring up an interesting point. I referred to the Halloween franchise as 3 movies and varying degrees of crap. Once again, I will watch every single one of those varying degrees of crap movies multiple times in my life, and I have watched them multiple times in my life. Part 5, objectively bad movie. Everyone hates Halloween Part 5. Oh. I love it. It's my fourth favorite in the franchise. After those top 3 that I think, my next favorite is Halloween 5. And I know it's bad, but I remember watching it as a kid. I can't watch part 4 without immediately putting in part 5. Like, to me, they're inseparable and I love them both.
I think you get whiplash going from 4 to 5. It's like, it's a continuation of the story, but it's a totally different director. It's like a totally different feel. It is.
You've got
like riding a roller coaster.
The cops that make clown car music behind them, which serves no purpose.
That's what happens. When I was a child, I'm older than you guys, clearly. Child of the 80s, I saw pretty much all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. That was my jam in the 80s. Something happened. I don't know. As I've gotten older, I'm more mellow. I just find them gross now, where it's like someone's turned to a roach in the Roach Motel and he squishes it and Glop dumps out.
Though. It's a good kill.
There's the sorry,
my
bad.
Spoilers.
The thrilling conclusion. Where like you said, like the marionette dude walking around. I just find it like, yeah. Now, obviously, Freddy has a hell of a lot more personality than these other guys, and that's kind of the selling point. If it was less gross, I might be more into it. And that I literally have not seen, other than Freddy versus Jason, I haven't seen a Nightmare on Elm Street movie in decades. Probably at some point it switched for me. Now, in terms of Halloween, the first movie I think is a classic because it really kind of sets the tone for what these kind of movies are aspiring to be. Right? It has the soundtrack. It's a slow burn. Really, where it, like you said, there's Michael Myers peeking behind the hedge. Here I am.
But it's atmospheric. Like, we're making fun of it, but like just you see stuff and in the background you see that station wagon drive by and your eye isn't drawn to it. It just kind of hits you in the brain like, oh, there's peril. That even during these scenes where I'm not supposed to be sensing the peril, like your body's picking up on it.
I agree. I don't mind part 2 or part 4. I think they're decent, and I think they're probably comparable to the movies you'd see in Friday the 13th. That same kind of quality, for good or for ill, right? Halloween 3, on the other hand, it is off the charts bonkers. It is my guilty pleasure. I mean, because it is so ridiculous. I mean, it's that old Hollywood trope where it's like, I am not a police officer. I have no investigative background, but I'm going to investigate this crime for some reason. The main dude, Tom Atkins, cares more about getting a six pack and hooking up with strange women than practicing medicine. He's a doctor, allegedly, or spending time with his family around the holidays. So it is, there is robots, there are masks that make your children's head explode. It is all over the place. And I love it.
And that ending is glorious. Just him screaming on the phone, turn it off.
The kids have to watch this commercial, and that causes their heads to turn into, spiders and snakes and things like that. Now, ignoring time zones completely. Right?
Yes. Yeah, because on the East Coast, they're watching that commercial at midnight.
Exactly.
I also think it's very strange, too, that we're supposed to like this piece of shit protagonist. He's actively cheating on his wife. He's on the road playing hooky. And you're like, okay, this is the dude we're going to root for. All right, bold choice.
And he's on the phone saying, turn it off. Who are you calling? The emperor of the network?
He's calling Mr. CBS.
Yeah.
Anyway, love it. Watched 4 and 5 more recently. I think they were on Joe Bob Briggs recently, and I hadn't seen them in years. 4, I said, enjoyable. 5 is, what in the hell is this? 6, we actually reviewed on our show, and it is so horrible that you have to laugh. It's Donald Pleasance dies halfway through. Paul Rudd is in it. It is, it's not funny that Donald Pleasance dies, but he's a fine actor.
Yeah, Paul Rudd filmed Clueless and Halloween 6 essentially back to back, and Halloween 6 tries to sneak in there and be like, introducing Paul Rudd.
And then you got H2O, you've got Resurrection, and then I pretty much tapped out.
Oh God, Resurrection.
When Busta Rhymes is your protagonist, I kind of said, okay. Did not watch the Rob Zombie movies. I'd seen them. I've seen his work in the past, and not my cup of tea. Whatever floats your boat. I saw the first David Gordon Green. Didn't like it that much. Didn't care for it, and I haven't seen any of the other ones.
I did not like 2018 at all. People, that has a higher favorability than a lot of the Halloween movies, and I don't understand why. I hated 2018, but
so
I remember liking it well enough. I think that the entire trilogy of the David Gordon Green universe is you could probably have an entire 2-hour long podcast just about that, because there's in theory, there's fan theories about how it mirrors the first 3 Halloweens of the original releases, and how the homage that they're playing in the second one, it's way more violence, way more killing, way more slashing, and then the third one, it's not even a Halloween movie. Like Michael Myers really isn't even in it, and just like Season of the Witch. So it's engaging, and I feel like not knowing a lot of that stuff and just reading these theories afterwards, I'm like, okay, I could kind of see that. And the really big swing Halloween Ends, big swings,
and I've said I wasn't a big fan of Halloween Ends, but I think that's a movie that history's going to be kind to. Like
I think so,
Halloween
too.
Part 3, when it came out, everyone was like, what
Right.
the fuck is this?
Many are still like
Yeah.
that.
I think in like 10 I think in 10 years, like people have come around on Season of the Witch. I think people are going to come around on Ends. And that's not me saying I liked it. I didn't, but it did. It swung hard and just did what people did not expect.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I think we covered it. I think we did
We
that
did
damn thing. I think we handled our biz.
And it only took 2.5 hours.
You know what? It's like a drop in the well. You know, just sit back, let it
Yeah.
wash over you. Good times.
Mhm.
But go for it.
It's 4 hours shorter than Crystal Lake Memories, so if you don't have time to watch that, just listen to
That's what I'm
this.
saying. Let's do our plugs. Pete, what you got?
So the show is called Middle Class Film Class. It's hosted by myself and Joseph and Tyler. We release twice a week, Mondays and Wednesdays, and it's Mondays is weekly news and review and streaming picks that we give out to the listeners, and then on Wednesdays it's one deep dive review into a movie chosen at random by our Wheel of Destiny. So it's a lot of fun. It's got a comedic kind of twist to it, and it's recorded live like a radio show.
Oof.
We actually do stream live once a month, every fourth Saturday, and yeah, it's a good time. We just launched our Patreon in January. It's doing gangbusters, and if you listen to the show regularly, we constantly are interacting with the listeners. So it's a big listener interaction show. So it's a lot of fun. Hop on board if you
Sweet.
haven't.
Stu,
Give it a
what you
shot.
got?
My podcast is the Stu World Order, where for some reason I don't talk horror movies. I do random comic book movies. I have a big list. My guests come on, pull a number. I tell them what the movie is we're going to watch. We watch that movie. I also have the website I mentioned, swoproductions.com, where I do talk an exorbitant amount of horror. I have a whole tag full of Friday the 13th and stuff. I've talked about the Jason movies on there, so check that out. I also have a Patreon at swoproductions.com. Mostly that's you're watching in real time me trying to figure out how to make videos, and it's why I have guests on my show, because I can't do anything by myself. I'm a trashy clown, but I have so much fun with those videos, man.
A trashy clown.
Love it.
I'm a trashy clown, not trashy like low class or lowbrow, just trashy like, what am I doing?
Dynamite. Thank you very much. You can find the podcast That Wouldn't Die on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok, strangely enough. You can email us, the podcast that wouldn't die at Gmail. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the finer podcasts are available. Next week, you can watch The Mist, the Frank Darabont classic. We'll be discussing that. Send in any favorite scenes, favorite quotes. Our coats.
Speaking of great endings.
That's true as well.
Yeah.
Comments, questions, and we may talk about it on the show. So thank you very much and be well.